All right, welcome. Not too late to learn Yu-Gi-Oh? Yeah. Currently 9 a.m. Pacific time. It is Saturday, October 26th. This is one day after we've gotten various announcements from Magic, Wizards of the Coast, regarding upcoming releases, preview cards, etc. So the main things are that Wizards did release two videos on Magic: The Gathering Foundations, which is a set that's going to be coming out in late November, along with a bunch of other future products, crossovers. Let's start with the one piece of good news that we got. They're making a change to the rules that basically changes how combat assignment order works. So previously, if you, let's say you attack with a creature and your opponent blocks with multiple creatures, you would have to assign the order of blockers. So you would pick, this creature is going to receive damage first, this creature is going to receive damage second, etc. And this was a problem because, let's say, you know, you have a 4/4 creature and they block you with 2 3/3s, right? And so you pick one of the 3/3s as that's going to be the first creature in the assignment order, and then they go, before damage, giant growth that creature, and now it's a 6/6. Well, at this point, you're locked into your damage assignment order, so now your 4/4 creature has to deal 4 damage to their 6/6, and then your creature gets killed. So now it doesn't work like that anymore, or at least it won't work like that anymore come Foundations release. Now you just get to deal damage to whatever you want. There's no assignment order anymore, so you can't get got in that regard. I never personally liked that rule. I thought it was mostly, yeah, just a way to get ambushed and make attacking into blockers less reliable. They said it's similar to like damage on the stack. Yep, feels like an outdated rule set that needed to go. It's a pretty minor change, but it is a positive one. Now let's talk about everything else. So obviously they showed off a bunch of preview cards, mostly from Foundations, but some from other sets, Secret Layers, etc. And they talked about all their crossover IPs that are coming out, and we're amazingly just getting SpongeBob right over here, as you can see, as a crossover IP. We've learned a couple of things. So first of all, Universes Beyond sets, which means non-Magic IP in the game. So this is not like SpongeBob, Final Fantasy, Marvel, but they've done a million other ones, are now going to be legal in all formats. So previously, those sets would be released and they would be legal in EDH, Modern, Legacy, Vintage, right? But they wouldn't be in Standard or Pioneer. Well, now they're all going to be in standard sets. It's not retroactive, so all of the Universes Beyond cards that have already been released won't retroactively become legal, but all Universes Beyond product going forward will now all go through standard. So if you personally disliked this and you wanted Magic storylines to stay pure, or you just don't like all these outside IPs, there's no format that you can play now that doesn't have them. Secondly, they said that it's going to be a 50-50 split between the Universes Beyond products and Magic IP. So we're getting a lot of it. And then the thing that I think is really going to kill the game is they're increasing the number of sets that they're releasing in Standard from 4 to 6 per year. So to explain why this is such an atrocious idea, so let's do some quick math here. Previously, you would get, so let's, before announcement and after announcement, right? So before you had 4 sets, 4 standard sets per year, 2-year rotation, which meant that you had 8 sets per year. So if you were trying to play standard, you had to buy 8 sets per year, or approximately 1 set every 3 months. And, you know, some of those sets would apply to previous formats as well. So let's not just say it's only for standard, but basically if you wanted to keep up with the game and be able to play standard or other formats, you were buying into 8 sets per year. Now, after the announcement, so first of all, we already knew that they're changing to a 3-year rotation. Secondly, they're going to increase from 4 sets per year is now becoming 6 sets per year, or roughly approximately 1 set every 2 months. And because of the 3-year rotation, that means standard means this is going to equal 18 sets. Sorry, not per year. This is per rotation. So now we're going to get 18 sets per rotation. This is on top of the cost of the game going up in general. Booster packs are more expensive than they've ever been. Draft is more expensive than it's ever been. And singles, although many of them are now bulk, they're still overall more expensive than they've ever been. Mostly, I think, due to collector boosters. So what this means is, so what does this mean? More product than ever to keep up with. And the game will be more than 2x expensive than it was before. So I've seen a lot of people on Reddit in particular getting upset about all this IP crossover, particularly stuff that is just totally outside of anything traditional fantasy adjacent, like the SpongeBob Secret Lair. But I think that's really burying the lead. I think the actual lead is this enormous increase in sets. So this is going to price a lot of people out of the game, and it's going to burn a lot of people out. And I think this will actually wind up killing the game. It'll be a slow death. But basically, like one of the things is a lot of people got priced out of Modern because of Modern Horizons. Well, this is going to price people out of everything. So in the future, I think the game will basically I think it will essentially die, and it'll be a majorly scaled back game. If there's any releases going forward, they will be less frequent, less not being able. They won't be the brand that they were before. And I think the game is mostly going to just revert to a casual playgroup setting where people just play EDH games or cubes. Because I can't see enough people being able to keep up with a tournament circuit where you have to have 18 sets per rotation. So as an example, right now, I stopped playing Magic for a while and I didn't buy any of the cards from Murders at Karlov Manor, for example. Well, Murders at Karlov Manor had all the Surveil lands. All those Surveil lands are now, they have different prices, but on average, they cost about $10 per Surveil land. So that's 4 Surveil lands, 4 copies, and there are 10 Surveil lands. So for me to play Standard right now, just on the Surveil lands, not anything else, I would have to spend $400 to get my playset of all the Surveil lands. So that's one of the things that is keeping me from even getting into Standard, and I'm sure that's a problem for a lot of other people too. These changes almost exclusively help collectors and hurt players, and that is basically what the takeaway from this is, that they are 100% prioritizing short-term profits over the long-term health of the game. They are strip mining the game for all it's worth, and this is absolutely going to kill the game. So before, I gave up a lot of Magic due to Modern Horizons coming out, and these Modern Horizon sets ruining Modern and Legacy. But I just had to accept that, well, a lot of people, it's bewildering to me that there's still so many Modern players, but apparently enough people still enjoy it or don't see it as a problem. I think this is absolutely just going to kill the game. God, I'm tired. I hear you, Shawn. But anyways, We're not here to endlessly bitch and complain. We're here to relax and have some fun and build some EDH decks. And EDH as a format can still survive. It's just tournament magic is going to die. How will this affect kitchen table and casual game store play? I mean, so we've had tons of examples of card games where it comes out, it has its initial success, and then it dies off, right? Like, really, what are the card games that have survived long term? It's Magic, Pokemon, and Yu-Gi-Oh, right? Every other card game has either died out or is relatively recent. So, you know, there's other card games besides those major three that are even like popular card games right now. Like there's the One Piece card game, there's like Weiss Schwartz, there's, you know, there are other card games, but all of those other card games are much more recent. Like, you know, Pokemon, Magic, and Yu-Gi-Oh have like, what, 20-year plus histories? But we have examples of card games that have died out. And for those card games, you just have the, you know, you've got the players who bought into those card games, and when they can, they just play casually amongst each other in small groups. But there's no market for those cards anymore. And so this is probably going to happen with Magic, where we're going to get, there's going to be people who still go and play EDH, and there's going to be people who still go and, you know, they play cubes. And of course, Magic has a much bigger card pool to customize stuff for, so it won't get stagnant as quickly. But yeah, the game will, I mean, are you going to play this? Like, are you going to buy 6 sets a year and have to maintain 18 sets worth of standard in order to play standard? And they also announced that Pioneer isn't even getting any tournament support until 2026. So if you were interested in Pioneer, that's gone too. And Modern Horizon, like Modern is impossible to keep up with now for most people because the Horizon sets are unbelievably expensive and rotate the entire format. So there's basically no competitive tournament format that you can play anymore that is financially viable. You know, for me, I don't have a store that's within like a reasonable driving distance of where I live to play actual tournament Magic. The only stores near me run Modern tournaments, and Modern, as I said, is just a dumpster fire now. And if I wanted to play Standard or Pioneer, I would have to drive an hour to get to a store that actually runs those events. So I've mostly not been doing that. I hadn't played Paper Standard or Paper Magic other than Casual Cube with Dylan on occasion, and the store championships just because I wanted a shot at the Urza Saga promo. But outside of that, I haven't played Paper Magic since December of last year. Really makes the most enfranchised players step back away from the game. Yeah, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to churn new players. What they're trying to do with this Universes Beyond stuff is they're trying to get new players in from these other IPs to come and jump into Magic, right? Because the Universes Beyond cards generally do sell very well, but I think a lot of that is collectors or people that might just be casually interested because they're fans of whatever IP it is. They get in, they buy some cards, but they don't stick around to play the game. Or they're just casual players. They're not buying tons of cards. So here, they're making all the Universes Beyond stuff standard legal, and they're making it 50-50 split to try to get tons of new players in. So for older players who you either like the flavor of the game because you like the Magic storyline and characters and that kind of stuff, well, this just is a huge turnoff when you're getting this kind of stuff in the game. And also for enfranchised players, like there's no way that you can keep up with 6 sets a year. Like, I couldn't believe it when we're getting Foundations previews not even a month after Duskmourn already came out. Crazy. Anyway, so yeah, I made this little thing. Let's move on. Have some fun, guys. Let's have some fun building EDH. So we had requests last time. We still got Edward Nigma's Cube, who was actually in the chat last time, but they didn't post the link, or they tried to, but it didn't work. We still got that to do, and we had a request for a 5-color Changelings list from Jalen Miller, and we had a request for Preston built on a budget from Luca. Now, Changeling one, I mean, the only Changeling I can think of is like Morophon, right? So, format is EDH, and then is a commander, and it says Changeling in the text. Yeah, that's basically just Morophon, right? Like Orvar is its own thing. Mora is not really a Changeling commander. So Morophon would be the main one, I would think. Long live Cube, indeed. The best way to play Magic. The problem with the whole Changeling thing is, like, technically, Morophon is really just here to be a... Do you have a tribe that doesn't have a commander? Here's your commander that can apply to any tribe, basically. But as far as, like, actual Changelings go, if we search for a type creature that says Changeling in the cost, there's only 42 of them. And of them, I would say most of them are bad. I think there's only 3 good ones. It's Mirror Entity, Torian Mauler, and Realm Walker, I think, are like the only good ones. And yeah, here they are. Torian, Mirror Entity, Realm Walker. I mean, Changeling Outcast, Masked Vandal, and Universal Automaton occasionally show up somewhere as random pieces in decks, but they're not great. They're just little utility cards. Unsettled Mariner could be another one. But basically, there's just not enough Changelings that are actually good. And then I suppose we could say, what about not creatures, but like stuff that makes Changeling tokens, right? There's, you know, Black Market Connections makes a Changeling token. But again, that's really it. So you're talking about a tribe that has maybe, you know, I mean, they're a tribe, they're Changelings, but, you know, let's just say a tribe that has maybe, what, 6 or 7 actual cards in it? May I ask what decks you used to play in Modern before it became set constructed with MH2? I played all kinds of decks. All kinds. I have played, let's say, decks that I played more than once. Favorite deck ever was Lantern. Played that a ton. I have played Amulet Titan. I played various Death Shadow decks. I've played Murktide. I've played Tron. Omnath, Multicolor Piles. Grinding Breach combo deck. What else? I'm trying to think what other decks have existed. KCI when that was legal. Mono black coffers. Blue-white control. Throw out deck names because I've played a ton of them. Throw out deck names that aren't aggro decks. What else? Ramp. Did I ever play Scape Shift? No. Wait, what am I saying? I can just go look at my Modern playlist. Guide to every deck in Modern. So these are all decks that I've played at least once, but I'm thinking more along the lines of decks that I've actually played like significant amounts of times. Coco, Bant, Green, White, etc. Taking Turns. E-Tron, Red Eldrazi, Bant Eldrazi. Sunforger decks. TNT. Played a lot of Devoted Druid. Yeah, Elementals, if you consider that different than Omnath. Elves. Enchantress I played for a while. Oreos. Heliod combo decks. Humans. Jeskai Ascendancy stuff. Played Jund a little bit. Magda. Mill. That was another one. I've played Fate Stitcher stuff. Mono Red Prison. Scam. Safi Rallier combo. Played Shamans for a bit. Shape Anew. I played Spirits. Meshy Bloom, I was on that for a while. Dabbled in Yawgmoth. Yeah, so all of these. And I've played more decks than just these, but those decks, the decks that are not listed here, I've played maybe like once or twice. But like, these are the decks that I played more than that. The decks that I've probably played the most in terms of like playing them for a year or more are, there were Lantern Amulet, Omnath deck, KCI, Devoted Druid. Won my first PPTQ with Devoted Druid. Elementals, Heliod deck, Humans I played for a long time. And I think that's the main. I also played Tameshi Bloom for a while. So yeah, I've played all of those. Yeah, so sorry, Jalen, but as far as changelings go, like, I just don't really think this is a theme to build around because there's just not, there's only 42 changelings in the game and only, like, generously, only 6 or 7 of them are actually any good. And changelings don't really have an identity, right? It's not like, you know, name a tribe, like, you know, goblins, go wide, aggressive, makes tokens, elves. Go wide, generates mana somehow, usually makes tokens. Tree folk has high toughness, like higher toughness than power. You know, you can name a tribe, you can name what their theme is. Changelings don't have a theme because they're just meant to slot into empty positions. We will be eliminating that. And then Preston, requested by Luca. All right. I assume they mean the Vanisher. I guess I didn't get them. They said Preston deck, but there's Preston Garvey and Preston the Vanisher. Actually, I don't know which one they're referring to then. Probably should have clarified that. I just didn't realize there were 2 different Prestons. Well, if Luca shows up again, we can ask them to specify which one they actually want. So, for now, let's go to the randomizer and let's pick a random commander to build around. Unless anybody has requests, but we'll take those as they come. So, oh, wise magic randomizer, give me a commander to build. Marwyn the Nurturer. I've intentionally not built Marwyn because she's just worse than Selvala, right? So Selvala is another 3-mana green commander that also has to tap. Selvala taps equal to not her power, but the highest power you have, period. Marwyn only taps to add power equal to specifically her power, and she gets bigger due to elves. I feel like there's going to be too much overlap with Selvala, and even if I build this, it's probably just going to be worse. Yeah, if I build this, it's going to be like 95% the same as just the Selvala deck, but with maybe slightly more emphasis on elves and possibly more elf-related stuff just in terms of, like Wirewood Symbiote will be a little better. Maybe there's some, you know, Cloudstone loops or whatever, or Ashai Aquarian Ranger loops that you can do to make her infinitely powerful. Marwyn can be quite cool, though. Maybe Marwyn Voltron. You don't need elves, just include a bunch of auras. Like, well, that's my other problem is, like, it's not even necessarily elf tribal. She's just going to be 95% the same as Selvala, right? So if I go here to, let's look up Selvala, right? Not the budget version, the regular version. Okay, so if I go to Selvala, right? What is Selvala? Add X in any combination where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. So Selvala has big creatures, so obviously Marwyn only cares about her own power, so this is not going to be applicable. But all of the untapping and pumping, all of that is going to be the same. So, and then, like, what does Selvala want to do? Selvala also wants to have, like, a bunch of loops and untappers and pump spells. And so I feel like it's just going to be, take this deck and, like, copy-paste it and just remove these 8 big creatures and replace them with other pump or untap or whatever. I even said in that video where I said the commanders I'm never going to build, I specifically pointed out commanders where they're basically strictly worse than other commanders. And Selvala is just the best version of what this is doing. So I'm going to pass on Marwyn. Unless somebody can make a really convincing case for why this is going to be different in a substantial way from Selvala, I'll pass on Marwyn. We're not locked into doing any of these randoms. All right. Wise Magic Oracle. Give us a deck that we actually want to build. Random. Lauren, Disciple of History. Whenever it or another legendary creature enters the battlefield under your control, return target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. So we want her, and we want either ways of blinking her or just other cheap legends, and then we get artifacts back from the graveyard. Not into play, though, into our hand, so we could either use, like, super cheap stuff like Mishra's and Urza's Bauble, so we can just draw more cards again, or... also does not strike me as particularly good. Spending 4 mana. What is a loop that I can set up with? Is there a combo of any kind that I can do with her? Lauren... Disciple of History. There are combo. Wow, that's a long combo. You need 5 different cards plus another prerequisite of some kind. This one is also 5 cards, so it's Lauren, Yoshimaru, Isamaru, Cloudstone, and Lotus Petal. So you can just keep loop. Okay, I see what the combo is. Or just any 1 mana legends, basically, so you can keep looping them back and forth. And then even that doesn't win the game. It's just infinite ETB, LTB, Storm. You still need... yeah, the other prerequisite, you need a Storm card or, like, something that triggers on creatures entering. Jesus. Assembling this would be a nightmare. All right, this one's at least... this one does something. All right, let's try it. I'll time myself. Timer. Stopwatch. Go. All right, so we want Lauren, Disciple. Add it to the bookmarks. Boom. Okay, types and tags. Add the starter kit. Add the 1-color mono base, and then we're mono white, so let's stack some out. Although we can't play Rule of Laws due to our loop, but okay. And then, yeah, we want Cloudstone, Curio. We want Yoshimaru. Actually, I can probably... card type legendary creature. And it has to be in the white identity and has to equal 1 mana. So Hope of Girapur, Isamaru, Kithian, Mikaeus will just die if you play it for that much. Skrelv and Yoshimaru. And then we're gonna want Lotus Petal. What's our ramp at? Let's add some ramp in here. Definitely want protection. All right, now let's fix this up. So these are specifically combo cards in this deck. So combo, or Skrelv, combo. And Hope of Girapur, where's that? Also combo. And Lotus Petal's a combo. All right, removal is probably fine. Yeah, that's good. All right, Dax. Clearly, we can't use Curse Totem. We also can't use, I guess we can use Mass LD, but we don't want that. And we don't want Rule of Laws. And no ETB ones either, so let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of... Canonist is non-artifact, so technically you could go off through this if you just had Hope plus Skrelv, but mostly that's not going to be applicable. So get rid of that. Taxing effects, also get rid of them. EBs, Thorn, Ataki, Null Rod, Censor, Ravages. Deafening Silence, also we need to loop Lotus Petal, so that's also not applicable. All right, Spirit of the Labyrinth is probably going to be a no-go either. This. Most of this is just going to be gone. Torpor, Winter Moon's fine, and then we can cut all the rest of this stuff. So most of the stacks gets gone. Get rid of this, get rid of Urborg. All our fetches. And the Rainbow Lands. Ancient Den, that's fine. Okay. 22 ramp. Because we got to get our 4 mana guy out here. This is mostly acceptable. What are the worst ones here? Our creatures are probably going to be more valuable than our non-creatures because I can't imagine I'm not going to play Enduring Innocence and whatnot. So that means that the Deep Gnome, get out of here. And then, actually, no, yeah. Deep Gnome? Yeah, Deep Gnome can get out of here. Because it's not reliable. And then, what's the worst non-creature artifacts that we have? Probably... What exactly? Liquimetal Torque. And 20. Go a little lower on this. Thought Vessel. Okay, get rid of Thought Vessel. Maybe Mind Stone. All right, protection. We get rid of Gladriels. And then defense grid. Let's see, there's Grand Abolisher. I'm not going to play Myral. I'm not going to... Actually, we do need Ranger Captain because it specifically goes and tutors up our small guys. We also want Recruiter of the Guard. And then let's see, Lotus Petal. And so we've got all of these in Cloudstone Curio. We need ways of fetching artifacts. So we're going to want Oswald. Because we need him to go fetch Cloudstone. And we can never fetch Lotus Petal other than with Enlightened Tutor. All right, this is a fine ramp. We might have enough for Nick, though, so I'm not sure. I'm going to get rid of Reprieve. And then let's add Card Draw into the deck. Ogma, no. But the rest of it's probably fine. Not Mystic Forge. No, Mystic Forge, we're going to have a lot of artifacts. I don't know how many of them. Also, there's the potential that we have all of our stuff get killed, so let's do Ascend from Avernus. We do want Monovault. We also want Grim Monolith. Get our guy out faster. So the combo is Commander plus any 2 legends that cost 1. Plus Lotus Petal plus Cloudstone. Holy crap, that's so many pieces. Although 2 of them are somewhat interchangeable between 4 different 1-mana legends. And one of them is our commander, so it's not as bad as it looks, but it's still pretty bad. What tutors are there in white? Up tutors. Because this deck really, really needs tutors. Wayfarer, Recruiter, so like nothing. Or at least nothing that I wouldn't play normally. Colorless stuff. I guess Inventor's Fair. Yeah, sure. Moonsilver Key is mana ability, so that's not applicable. Okay. So Inventor's Fair. All of our ETB trigger guys are all stuck at 1 trigger per turn, right? Except for Mentor, who costs mana. And is Takazia's also limited? It is. Let's see. We're probably going to want a... I've got to figure out more combos that I can do with Lauren. Also, Teshar would be another way of doing this, right? Because... whenever you cast a historic spell, yeah, Teshar basically does exactly the same thing as Lauren, but just, like, better. Alright, so in white ID, we want a card that says, whenever the creatures are entering, being cast, artifacts are entering and being cast, and sacking. Alright, I want it to say artifact or creature or historic or legendary, and then it needs to say enter or cast or leave or dies or, well, I guess not dies, right? Nothing's it would be put into a graveyard from the battlefield. And let's say costs 3 or less. Okay. And let's get rid of the once per turn trigger. So I guess Bantu's Monument technically can kill our opponents even though it's in the wrong color. Only once per turn, once each turn. So Bantus, there's probably Scrap Trawler loops that we can do. I'm not sure though. Bantus is such a weird one to have. It's in here entirely just so that we can cast creatures, drain opponent. I guess it works though. Bantus Monument. The white one just makes a bunch of tokens, and then we can't necessarily win the game with those tokens. Oh, I should have Pearl Medallion in this deck. That a bit more removal as well. Get Lost. All right, what else can we do? When a creature enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, they lose 1. Okay, so that's not applicable. We've got all the gain ones on our side. Hazaret's Monument rummages. Grinding Station? We have to sack Lotus Petal to itself, right? We have to get the mana to keep looping. So we can't use Grinding Station. Oh, Glaring Fleshraker will also work, right? Whenever you cast a colorless spell, create a spawn. Whenever another colorless creature enters the battlefield under your control, deal 1 damage to an opponent. So that'll also win the game. So, Glaring Fleshraker. Yep, there's that combo. Staff of the Storyteller doesn't really apply. What are other ways that we can just win? I'd preferably like something that isn't just Cloudstone Curio, so I don't have to assemble every specific thing. But we probably don't have a lot of options. If you cast a creature spell, choose one. Create a token that's a copy of target artifact you control. So that would make infinite tokens, and then we can... But that alone doesn't win us the game. In the same way that Oketra's Monument wouldn't win us the game. So unless this combos with another artifact, I guess what do you have? You've got Lotus Petal in play. I guess if you start the loop, you can make a copy of the Lotus Petal, as long as you've got one extra mana lying around when you start the loop, and then you can make infinite mana. Although that also doesn't win you the game, but it is a payoff of sorts. Voltec Matter Weaver. What are mono white AB combos? I can't think of anything. Like, black has Citadel Top Reservoir and Sanguine Bond Exquisite Blood, or any of the other combos with those. Blue has Isochron Scepter Dramatic Reversal. It also has like Hullbreaker / Tidespot Tyrant Looping Artifacts. Red has Dual Caster Molten Duplication. What does white have? Village Bellringer. Nothing copies it if you're not in other colors. I guess that would be one reason to continue to have Liquid Metal Torque in the deck. So I can turn things that aren't artifacts into artifacts, and then Matter Weaver can copy them or whatever. Go to Merconvert, because I don't want to have to pay 2 life every time I tap one of these guys. Alright. Marthas just dies instantly, right? Yeah. This returns an artifact. Return target artifact, yeah. And Lauren is a human artificer. Okay. What else would I want? So I have my loop trigger stuff. What else? Whenever legendary. All right, none of these really apply. I said baubles before. So type artifact, CMC less than or equal to 1, sacrifice. Draw or destroy or exile. The baubles. So Mishras, Urzas. I guess Wayfarer. No, by the time you get there, it's not great anymore. Actually, even the baubles are kind of dubious, but whatever, let's try it. Vexing Bauble's also fine, I suppose. And then there's Chromatic Star, which is not net neutral on mana. Dispeller's Capsule's another one that's kind of interesting, although you're paying 4 mana before you destroy something. Even if you can get it back, that's still pretty bad, but... Alright, we'll have that. Dispeller's Capsule. And then there's like all these other ones. Most of these are bad. EE for 1? No. What about 2 mana? Actually, if it's 2 mana, I don't want to say draw anymore. Hatchet Bomb. Heck is the moment. Untap target creature you control. It phases out until the moment leaves the battlefield. Oh. So, not much really here. Okay. What's our actual count right now? It is 77, so plenty of room for other stuff. I don't know what else to add. We've got removal. We've got our protection spells. We've got... Oh, do I have silence? Yeah, silence is fine because we need to combo off. So the combo is Lauren, Cloudstone, Lotus Petal, 2 different legendary creatures that cost 1, and we have 4 of those. Hope, Isamaru, Relvia, Shamaru, oh, and Kithian. So 5 of those. Any other combos with what our deck is currently at? Find my combos, clear the deck list, add the URL, submit. I have to refresh the page for some reason. All right, so we got these 3, and then Sensei's Top plus Mystic Forge plus Flesh Raker. Okay, that's perfectly fine. Sensei's Top's easy enough to add in. One Ring Meticulous, no. Crackdown, no. Uba Mask plus Dranith. Sure. Uba Mask. I don't think I normally would care about that, but the fact that I can Oswald into it is pretty nice. All right, what else do we have? Teshar plus Salvager of Ruin plus Urza's Bauble. Okay. And Lotus Petal. So it does a lot. So Salvager of Ruin, sure. Salvager of Ruin. Sack it, choose target permanent in your graveyard that was put there from the battlefield this turn, return it to your hand. Then you can just go infinite with Teshar and something costs 0. That's also one of the reasons I wanted Everflowing Chalice potentially in here. And then what's the last one? Salvage Scout. So kind of the same as Salvage of Ruin, almost. I would rather have Salvage of Ruin between the 2 of them, I guess. It has more different combos and is an artifact. All right. What about things that sack artifacts? So sacrifice an artifact. So yeah, there's KCI Oswald, Grinding Station, Throne of Geth. The thing is, like, if I'm already going to be bringing artifacts back anyway, then I would kind of want a way to sack them. I want a way to sack them that's better than ACI, though, at 4, because, like, Oswald's really good, and then there's not much else. I would, instead of artifact, just say permanent. I figured that wouldn't be much either. How many combos is Clark Clan Ironworks a part of? Clark Clan Ironworks. Eh? All right. What about if I search for it from here? Clark Clan Ironworks. There we go. It's Scrap Trawler, Mer Retriever. Wow, that's a lot of pieces. Okay. So many pieces. Wormcoil, Nim, Battlesphere, Nim. So nothing really having anything to do with what we're doing. All right, so never mind that. I also need to look for tutors, right? Search your library for... creatures we don't need so much because we have 5 different 1-drop legends, but artifacts are more important. So artifact, and I don't care whether it goes to the hand or battlefield. I added Inventor's Fair, right? Yeah. Oh, obviously we have so little cards. I didn't add all these planes in. Yeah, okay. Now that makes more sense. Moonsilver Key. I guess Moonsilver Key can tutor Lotus Petal, right? Yeah. Moonsilver Key. Then we got Saga. Holdoth is way too expensive. And then the other ones are also kind of crap, right? Yeah, pretty much. I'd like to see your take on building the Wise Mothman. Can you build a +1 counter version of the deck? Sure. Actually, why am I doing Ascend from Avernus? I should pick one that gets 3 cards back. Is it Dewdrop Cure? Mana value 2 or less. I mean, technically, Ascend from Avernus can scale up, so you can get back, like, Eshar as part of combo. Yeah, okay, never mind. It should be Ascend from Avernus. Alright, I'd never found a combo to use Matter Weaver in. What about Oltec, Matter Weaver? It has to be involved in certain combos, right? Delny, White Mane Lion, Mondrak, something else. Yeah, okay. Ancestral Statue, KCI, Academy Manufacturer. Yeah, all right. So let's take that out, and let's take out... I don't know. Defense Grid? I like Defense Grid. What would be another one? How many actual artifacts are in this deck for Mystic Forge? I have to imagine it's a lot, right? Ring. Then all these combo cards stay in here. Legendary creature. Yeah. Can go down a little on ramp, or maybe some of the kill spells. We have 8 kill spells and no sweepers. What does Battle of Bywater say exactly? Is it 3 and up or 4 and up? It's 3 and up. Okay. We only have to cut 1 card, right? So it's just like 1 removal spell or 1 piece of ramp, maybe. Get rid of Stroke of Midnight, I guess. Or, yeah, Stroke of Midnight. Stroke of Midnight. And I haven't even looked at EDH Rex, so what do they have to say about this? Lauren, Disciple of History. Yeah, some of the same stuff. Wayfarer's Wobble, yeah. Artifacts control of pro mana values. Low shield. Prevent all damage. Whenever one or more artifact creatures enter the battlefield under your control, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. Fortune, Samwise. A Retriever. Most of this stuff I don't think matters really. It triggers on cast, not enter, right? No, it is on enter. All right, I guess I do want Elshnorn Mom then. Most of this isn't too important though. We can skip, yeah, most of this stuff. Sorceries. I imagine seeing these cards that people are building this deck in a lot different way than I'm building it. It seems like from these cards averaging out here that people are building this deck more to be like a generic value deck and not to try to combo super fast. But then there's cards like Ashnod's Altar, so they're obviously including combos that are different than the ones I have. A Grinding Station, Cloud Key. Teleportation Circle, so you can keep getting the value out of it, right? Yeah. Beginning of your end step, exile up to one target tap creature you control, then return it to the battlefield. Yeah, they're building it mostly more towards value generation. The only thing I might want to change is adding in more artifact lands. How many colorless lands do we have right now? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that's fine. Let's see. We need to cut one card. I could cut a land. I could cut... I don't know how important Ascend from Avernus is. Or Lightning Greaves. No, Lightning Greaves is probably still useful. Go ahead and cut Smothering Tithe. I think that's good. All right, so Lauren. So the main combo is Lauren plus Cloudstone Curio plus Lotus Petal plus 2 different legendary creatures that cost 1. You need all of those in play, and even that doesn't actually pay you off. You still need another thing that can win the game. So the main ways that win the game after that is Glaring Fleshraker and... Is that it, actually? Another combo is with Top and something else I forget. Teshar can also do loops with Salvager of Ruin. So Fleshraker's like the main one. There's also Dranith plus Uba Mask. I feel like I'm missing something important here, or like especially that there's combo pieces that I should have. Maybe I should just have Bontu's Monument so that there's an... Because like Fleshraker isn't an artifact, so if we have the ability to go tutor an artifact as part of the win con, then that would be better than not having that ability. Just wondering if there's a better one than Bontu's Monument. Oh, we already have Bontu's Monument. Oh, I have it in here in ramp. When it's not actually ramp in this deck, it's a combo piece. What would be some other options? So CMC's 3 or less. Whenever another creature enters, how do we win? It has to say damage, or we're not gonna have... No, it could be damage and colorless. So it has to say deals or loses. Or I guess mill. Oh, Altar of the Brood can win the game. Altar of the Brood. Boom, that solves the problem. And it's cheaper than Bontu's, so we can get rid of Bontu's. Saugable. Unfortunately, you can't find it too well off Oswald. You have to sack a 0 to get it. But you can still find it. And it helps us infinite mill our opponents, so... There we go, that solves the problem. All right, it is obviously you have to get a ton of pieces to come together, which is crazy. And for a white deck, we can't run Rule of Law effects because our loop involves casting multiple spells. I guess the Lotus Petal, Skrelv, and Hope of Girper are all artifacts. So if the one Rule of Law that can get around that is Aethersworn Canonist. However, that's the only one that gets around that, and it doesn't get around the other one-drops, Yoshimaru, Pythian, and Isamaru. So, that is that. And then is there any other way for this deck to win? It's mainly just go find one of those combos, right? It's the Lauren combo, it's Teshar Salvager plus a number of other things, or it's Dranith Uba Mask. I think those are all of them, right? Yeah. So here's the link to Loran, Disciple of History, in the chat for anybody who wants to grab that link. All right, so building the Mothman, requested by Shawn Eldridge. The wise Mothman. All right. 4-mana Sultai, whenever it enters or attacks, each player gets a rad counter. So a rad counter is on your upkeep, you mill until you hit a land, and then you remove the rad counter. Or no, you mill a card. What did the rad counters do again? At the beginning of your pre-combat main, if you have any rad counters, mill that many. For each non-land card milled this way, you lose one and a rad counter. Oh, and it applies to you as well. So what you need to do here is, I would imagine, you need to infinitely flicker or bounce and recast Mothman, add infinite counters to all of your opponents, and then they just all die. And they hit infinite cards, right? Yeah. Mill that many. For each non-land milled, you lose one and a rad counter. I guess technically you don't have to mill them infinitely. You just have to mill them enough times to where they'll take lethal. But I mean, if you're doing that, you're milling them so much that you're basically milling them infinitely. Whenever one or more non-land cards are milled, put a +1 counter on each of up to X creatures, where X is the number of non-land cards milled this way. Okay, so you only get a +1 counter per creature, and the number of creatures expands. And it doesn't matter how you mill them, it just matters that you mill them. Okay. Gotta be careful for Teferi's protection type cards with that strategy, because you'll die if it's ever your turn again. Sure. That's a very, very specific card, though, and you can counter it. All right. So, lands. We've got to get rid of Arid Mesa. Yeah, Arid Mesa, and then we technically can play Urborg and Yavimaya and Cradle, and our commander wants us to go wide. Is there anything here that I don't want? Possibly the island and forest to cut down on the number of lands that we have. Bowmasters is one of those generically good cards that I've been removing from more and more decks just because it's so boring. Although here it's 2 different creatures, and a masked orc has a counter on it, right? Yeah. So it does kind of fit in this one. We'll probably play Ruin Crab. Why not? Ruin Crab's like the best mill card for the cheapest rate that we can get, I think. The other one would be Fractured Sanity, because this one you can cycle it. All right, we don't want Mono Vault, we don't want Dark Ritual. Yeah, no, none of that. Get rid of the island and the forest. Cut our land count down. Ramp, we've got 32. Way too much. Get rid of Demir, Liquid Metal Torque, Mind Stone, Opal, Ornithopter Paradise, Talisman, Thought Vessel, Revisits, Nature's Lore, Farseek, Felwar, Cold Steel, Arcane, and we're not going to do Devoted Druid stuff probably, so get rid of this. And our guy is a 3-power creature, but he gets bigger. The Fanatic Aronis hypothetically works. And we're at 18. That's probably fine there. If I'm doing Arbor Elf, there should definitely be Yavimaya in this deck. So Yavimaya, Cradle. Mesmeric Orb allows you to get around the 1 creature rule, so you can pump Mothman to be massive in 1 turn around the board. That is also a good point. Mesmeric Orb. Yeah, the best ones are Ruin Crab Orb and Fractured Sanity, right? Because all of the other ones either only target 1 person or they're more mana. So like Tasha's obviously probably will hit the maximum amount of cards, but Well, it's not milling them for one thing, but even if you ignore that, it's 3 mana. Hey, this is Ranguszx EX. I spent some, I assume you mean time editing my Angel deck, and listening to your advice, and I'd like for you to review and critique again. Sure. Oh, Jalen, you also submitted another request earlier, right? Were you the one who... Oh, no, you asked for Changelings, right? I vetoed Changelings, sorry. There's just not a good way to actually build a like, there's no direction for a Changeling deck, and there's only like a handful of actually good Changelings. Anyway, we're building Mothman right now on the request of Shawn Eldridge, but after that we can get to your thing. Let me add it here so I don't forget. Okay, is there an infinite combo in Sultai that allows me to blink or pick this up over and over and over? If I have Ghostly Flicker, Naru Meha, I can flicker Naru, Ghostly Flicker, and Wise Mothman and infinitely kill opponents immediately. That's one option. So Ghostly Flicker, Naru Meha. I think Naru Meha is the only thing that copies spells on the stack in Sultai, although this also wins just off of infinite mana anyway. But so this combo doesn't work unless Mothman is already in play, or you just use the infinite mana to do something else. Or what's the other one? There's more than just Ghostly Flicker. There's Displace. Yeah. Oh, we've got Mystical Tutor, right? Yep, that's fine. Would I want to do +1 counter shenanigans? I guess it's easy enough to just smash a Hardened Scales into the deck. Why not? And what else? Is Naru the only one that does it? When hard name enters copy. Seagate. Next one that you cast that costs 2 or less. And this one's conspiracy stuff, right? Yeah. So just Naru Meha. What would be the other one? You'd have to have a Cloudstone Curio loop, so you'd have Mothman, Cloudstone Curio, and deep card that bounces something, and then you would need the mana to actually pull it off. Or I guess you could use Hullbreaker Horror. That sounds easier. Hullbreaker Horror. How do we make infinite with this? We can make infinite colorless with Sol Ring, but that's not good enough. We can make Mox Diamond has a cost and Chrome Mox has a cost, so we can't just pick those up. If we had Mox Opal, we could do it, but then we don't have the artifact count for an Opal, and I guess we could do Mox Amber, but then Wise Mothman has to already be in play for that to work. I guess that's acceptable. If I have Sol Ring, Arcane Signet, they're net neutral on mana. They don't make any more. If I do have creatures that can tap for mana immediately, in which case, but I would need a way to give them haste. Have you built a Kibo deck? I have not. Food Chain works if that's your goal. Oh, does Food Chain work? Remove a creature you control at X, where X is remove creature's mana value +1. But won't Mothman... No, that doesn't work, right? Food Chain combos with Mist Hollow Griffin, and the Eldrazi one, Eternal Scourge, because you can cast them from exile. But Mothman will get taxed every time, right? Also added tags so you can understand my line of thinking a bit more. All right. What is Kibo? Oh, the banana monkey. No, I have not made that one. What is the food chain combo? But is it just those three, or can you do it with other things? Food chain. Yeah, Squeeze, Scourge, Mist Hollow, Prosh. Cast Prosh, pay plus tax. Prosh triggers, create 6. Oh, because you can exile the tokens, that's why. That's why Prosh works. Mothman doesn't work because there's nothing else. There's nothing recouping your ability to continue to food chain. So yeah, food chain would have to be its own thing. So if I'm going to do infinite mana combos, rather than food chain plus one of the other cards, it would probably be better to just do Dramatic Scepter. I guess you do need a way to reuse the Mothman though, right? So it would be food chain plus Eternal Scourge, I guess, is cheaper than Mist Hollow Griffin. Or I could do both of them. Hollow Griffin gets pitched to 4th. Suppose. There's arguments for either one. Cast Food Chain, then use Mist Hollow or Eternal, then you make infinite mana. After you have infinite, you cast Mothman infinite. Yeah, okay, but I understand what you mean. You just need one of them already, though. But yeah, Food Chain, Scourge, or Mist Hollow. I wonder if I should just have both of them. This means we're going to want creature tutors because we have combos that involve creatures. The Hullbreaker doesn't work, right? The Hullbreaker does not work, so get rid of Hullbreaker. We're going to want Worldly, Tutor. We can tutor directly to the battlefield, so Eldritch, Evolution. What's our curve on our creatures? Do we have any... How many 2s do we have so that we can leapfrog to... I'm thinking if I want to add Neoform. We leapfrog from 2 to Scourge, or we leapfrog from 3 to Naru Meha. Oh, we don't need Gilded Drake. We can get... Actually, no, I'll keep Gilded Drake. We have some 2s to leapfrog to 3, and then the only 3s we have are Oppo Agent and Scourge. All right, so if I'm gonna play Neoform, I'm gonna want Mist Hollow Griffin so I can also leapfrog to that one if possible. Neoform. Then there's I don't know, Finale would be easy enough. And then we can put Devoted Druid back in the deck and just play Luxior, and then that's another combo that we can achieve. Although it's only infinite green. That's not exactly what we need, but that's fine. Manamo, Dress Down. Where's our removal? Let's get rid of this. Removal. Oh wow, this is a lot. Okay, let's get rid of Floodmaw. Force of Vigor. Rollick. Probably fine. Maybe Kenrith can go. All right, let's get rid of Kenrith. The Wise Mothman. Combo with Pit Skeleton, Altered Dementia, Scurry Oak, and another thing. That sounds like so many cards that you need in order to combo. Yeah. Okay, no. Find me some combos. Clear the deck. Face the deck. Submit. That off. Alright, so yeah, we've got Druid, Luxior, Food Chain, Scourge, Displace, Naru, Food Chain, Mist Hollow, Naru, Ghostly Flicker. Then we've got, yeah, Brewmaster this, one Umbral Mantle, Hullbreaker Soul Ring, Doppelgang plus Naru. What? Oh. But you need to pay 5 for this. Can't. No. Confluence, Naru, Bristly Bill, Devoted Druid. Yeah, probably none of this is applicable here. Yeah. get rid of all that. Hi folks, do y'all think that the power creep, complexity creep, price creep, and stylistic integrity decline will lead to archival formats like pre-modern becoming a refuge? I think that Magic is going to transition to the only actual Magic that gets played will be basically casual games with your local play group of EDH or Cube. Because they're going to kill these new announcements that they've made are going to kill tournament Magic. Mothman has an essentially infinite combo with cards like Sphinx's Tutelage, Teferi's Tutelage, and Fathom Mage. Okay, so you have Mothman plus... We said essentially. You don't get it if you hit multiple lands in a row, right? But if I have whenever... this is whenever things are milled, and then there's whenever mill, and then Fathom Mage. So you need your 4-mana Fathom Mage in play, and Wise Mothman, and the card that is whenever you draw mill. So you go Fathom Mage, mill some cards. Presumably you hit a non-land card. Mothman triggers, it puts a counter on Fathom Mage. Draw a card, trigger again. Teferi's Tutelage is only a target player though, right? Whenever you draw mill. Psychic Corrosion is the card I would have picked for that one. That is another way of doing it. Psychic Corrosion. Fathom Mage. Is there an infinite opponent untap that I can do with Mesmeric Orb? All the ones are your own stuff, right? Doesn't have to be literally pre-modern. I bet 2015 modern would be a huge hit. I don't think it would be because it would get stagnant. Down there in Yu-Gi-Oh, that's exactly what people did. There are massive communities playing 2005 Yu-Gi-Oh and 2010 Yu-Gi-Oh. I'll take your word for it, although I believe I've heard of that before. Okay, so our combos right now are Naru Ghostly Mothman, or Naru Displaced Mothman. There's Food Chain Scourge Mothman, or Food Chain Mist Hollow Mothman. There's Psychic Corrosion Fathom Mage Mothman, and then there's Devoted Druid Luxior, although you only make infinite green with that, which is not actually good enough to win the game unless you're doing something else. Yeah, you know what? We can get rid of that. Get rid of Luxior, get rid of Devoted Druid. And then there's just Mesmeric Orb is just here because I usually use it as a combo piece, but fine. And then we've got no, that's it. So it's 3 different combos that we can assemble. Unfortunately, none of them can be assembled in exactly the same way. So the combo is either creature enchantment or creature instant or creature enchantment, right? That's the problem. So there's no, we can't just play like all the creature tutors, for example. And we don't have good ways of finding enchantments in Sultai, although we can just find like stuff. I guess Beseech the Mirror might be fine to help get combos into play. Let's see, more counter spells. Let's go to counter, Mana Drain, Muddle. What's our card count right now? It is 99. Protection. This. We're gonna win the same turn anyway, so Lightning Greaves is not important. I think we're gonna be over budget by what? 2 cards? 1 card. 1 card over budget. We got a lot of removal. Let's get rid of Claim. Claim or... yeah, Claim, Submerge, one of those. What's up, Bonkzilla? If you're looking for infinite mana, you recommended Vigian Graph Mage and Kami Incubation in your critique of me. There's that, but I don't like that because it's 3 and 3 and it both... I guess that's a way to do it, and Kami would also fit in nicely with the deck. So Kami of Whispered. Although you have to pump Kami, right? I guess Mothman can pump Kami. So there's Kami and then Vigian... How do you spell Vigian Graph Mage? Is it Vigian like that? Yeah. So Graph Mage is 2 to untap, right? Yeah, so that's why... Tap target creature with a counter on it. Yeah, so this is a... basically always a combo card and an untapper. For 1 mana more, you can play a Galvanic Alchemist, and that can combo with other things maybe, but yeah, that's a good one too. Let's get rid of Minamo. Yeah, Minamo. 31 lands. Oh, right. The reason I had Finale was because of the Devoted Druid thing. I guess we still win with infinite mana unless it's Food Chain. But if we have infinite mana, we can just cast Mothman, right? Although we can't recast Mothman unless we have Food Chain. Or... yeah, Cloudstone Loops would probably be bad. All right, let's get our Finale. And then we got 1 more card to cut. Vigian can also pair up nicely with something like Arbor Elf. That's something. Maybe Fanatic of Ronus isn't as good as I think it is because... we have to have triggered Mothman in order to even get this to tap for more. And then even if we're tapping for more, we're just tapping for green. All right, we'll get rid of Fanatic. All right, I think that's gonna do it. So we have a, it's not Sultai value, but it's like Sultai with a lot of generically good cards, but then specifically all these combo payoffs. Oh yeah, always look at EDH rec, the Wise, to see if we missed anything like really important. I assume they're way more all in on the +1 counter theme, right? Or rad counter theme. Yeah, proliferating cards. So yeah, much more all in on the whole +1 counters. +1 counters or Fallout rad counters flavor. Evolution Witness is a good pick. I should have that in here. Does Evolution Witness only get back permanents? Oh, it only gets back permanents? That's still probably worth it. What would I cut for that? Nature's Claim. All right. And most of the rest of this stuff I can probably ignore. I'm more all in on comboing than I am trying to get a bunch of +1 counters. 6. I'll ignore that for now. Got Rad Storm. Move it along. Sorceries. Move this along. What do we have as far as utility artifacts and other stuff? Mind Crank. Rad counters. Branching Evolution. Guardian Project. There's Psychic Corrosion. Memory Erosion was also one I thought of, but we can't combo with it. Alright, I think that's good. Ivy Lane Scurry Oak or Herd Bowlers is a good creature combo. Yeah, but we're not just going to stick any random combo into the deck. So I'm going to pick ones that are more all in on, that are more into like the Mothman. I get that both of those also care about +1 counters though, so I see what you mean. But also that doesn't technically win the game on the spot because you make infinite tokens and they're all huge, but you still have to actually attack your opponent. Whereas all of these combos actually just straight up win the game. Anyway, that's the Wise Mothman. So Mothman, the link. And then we had a request for looking at Ranguszx's decks again. Angels and Mill, right? Yeah. Always be suspicious of infinite combos as well that don't actually win the game on the spot. Because let's say you have a lot of the infinite combos are make infinite creatures, but then you still have to attack with them, which means you always want a way to just immediately win. Either give them all haste, or you can sack them, or you have like an Impact Tremors effect, something to where you don't have to pass the turn. Because if you pass the turn, you can always have another opponent just wins with their own combo, or somebody casts a sweeper and then undoes your whole combo. Like if I'm going to go through all the trouble of setting up a combo, I want to just win. The goal is to just have high synergy and protection from most effects. Okay. I don't know what changes you would have made. Actually, I can look at the history, right? So it would have been plus this, plus this, plus this, minus this, minus this, minus this. Okay. Same criticism of the mana base applies as usual. There's also a lot of stuff here that, yeah. Okay. All right. You said you had it tagged, right? Okay. Well, some of it you have tagged, but a whole bunch you don't. All right. I'll just sort it by type then. Yeah, Angel Glories, Field Marshal. High synergy and protection from most effects. Okay, so cards I don't like. Angelic Field Marshal, because all you're doing is... Wait, so just the Field Marshal gets +2 and your other guys have Vigilance? Oh, this card sucks, actually. Like, it's just awful. Archangel of Tides is not good either. Let's see. Avacyn, Bastion Protector. Auras and Humans cost 1 less for each +1 counter, and it gets +1 counters when it attacks. This also seems quite bad. I'm playing a 5-mana 3/3 that does nothing when it enters. I have to pass back to my turn. I have to attack with it. After I attack with it, I now have a 4/4, and my humans, which are only one of the 2 creature types that I care about, cost less. And so it's not until the next turn after that that I attack again, and now humans costing 2 less finally matters. That seems quite bad. Kona is also another one where I'm not sure if you're going to have anywhere near enough tap effects for this to work. In fact, I'm not really seeing any just offhand. Maybe I'm missing something somewhere, but I mean, you can also attack with it, but you don't even have like a bunch of big stuff to cheat in with it, right? You've got Avacyn, and then that's basically it. Yeah, I would not play Kona. Don't like Lyra. Myril is more expensive than both Grand Abolisher and Cutzel. Godric, Realmwalker. Realmwalker, the problem in this deck is that you have 2 different types that you care about. So, and with 28 creatures, so even if it cared about every single one of these, that would be 1/3 of your deck, and it's not going to be every one of these because some are angels and some are humans and not both. So yeah, I also thought about Realm Walker, but you don't need it. It's not good. Then there's this Sigarda, also don't need. Again, it doesn't even protect your other angels. This one is also just not good either. It only protects you from edicts, which is mostly irrelevant. ATB or attack, choose any number of creatures with different powers. They gain double strike. Okay. Thumberwald Sage. Really? All right. Darnheim Aspirant. Witch Enchanter and Yavimaya Elder. I don't like Yavimaya Elder. And then there's all this stuff. Turn to nature. Don't bother with this. Just play Nature's Claim. Hitting one thing out of a graveyard is basically irrelevant. Indestructibility, if you're going to run this, then just run Flawless Maneuver because it's the same cost or free if you've got your commander out. I don't know why you picked this art for Garruk. It makes it miserable to try to read what the heck it does. Reveal the top 5, get all the creatures, right? Yeah. And then you may feed a creature in. Again, the only creature in your whole deck that even costs more than Garruk is Avacyn, so that part's not really helping. Unless you're playing it for the +1, but that's not good either. Frailes, artifacts. Chroma's Memorial. Why do you need this when most of your guys already have flying? Flying and trample are kind of redundant. I guess not most of your creatures. Your angels have flying. But all your biggest creatures are angels anyway. Trample, haste, pro black, pro red. Yeah, a Chroma's Memorial is just way too expensive. Also, you're playing a bajillion Mana Rocks, but not Mana Dorks. You've got Avacyn's Pilgrim, and then that's it. I don't know why you don't want to play more Mana Dorks. Especially when there's other, like, humans that are Mana Dorks that you could run that would work well with Sigarda. All right, Greaves, Marble Diamond, Mind Stone, Mithril Coat, Moss Diamond, Oketras, Lesnia, Soul Ring, Swiftfoot Boots. Get rid of that. Well, okay. I'll take that back. It's okay with Sigarda, so you don't have to get rid of it. Great Henge. How big are your creatures even? Sigarda's a 4/4, so this costs... It's total power? No, it's greatest power. So it would cost 5. Yeah, this also doesn't strike me as being great in this deck. Thaw Vessel, Urza's Incubator. This is going to have the same problem as Realm Walker, which is that you're choosing 1/2 of your creatures. Vanquisher's Banner, same deal. Any of these choose a creature type when your creature cares about multiple... When your deck cares about multiple different types. Whisper Silk Cloak. And then you've got... For some reason, this card, the whole 9/10 thing really doesn't matter, so you're basically paying 6 mana to get indestructible, which is bad. Always Watching. Non-token creatures get +1 in Vigilance. This is not good either. Defense of the Heart, I would not run unless you specifically have a 2-card combo that wins the game on the spot, which you don't, as far as I can tell. You've got Avacyn, and I guess you can tutor up Gisela and Bruna, right? When does this trigger? Beginning of your end step? Okay, fine, I guess. Luminarch Ascension, Mirari's Wake, don't need that. Smothering Tide, and Virtue of Loyalty. Why this over Cathar's Crusade? Cathar's Crusade's a much better version of this effect. All right, so let's tag it. How much ramp do you have? 17. Frailes does not count. Frailes is 5 mana. And this thing also doesn't count at 4. Great Henge doesn't count either. So it's really more like 14. So yeah, don't count those as ramp, not enough ramp, and specifically move as much ramp as you can towards being humans. And like Yada's the one angel ramp that you can play, but more humans like Catilda, for example, I can think of. I'm sure there's other humans that also are like 2 mana humans that tap for mana. Those would just be better than a bunch of these rocks. Were there cards that I was missing? Did I miss a whole bunch of stuff? Excuse me. Celebrate the Harvest, Cleansing Nova. Still don't understand why you want this card. Rampant Growth. If you're gonna run a sweeper, just run Wrath of God or Bane of Progress. In fact, if you moved away from all of these excess artifacts that you have and you played more creature mana dorks, then you could run a card like Bane of Progress without it being as detrimental to you. I don't know many cards. I just main go off EDH Rec. There's a whole bunch more. Like, there's a lot of cards here that are still bad, that are just not worth running. So one thing that I would do immediately for this is I would just go Scryfall search, format EDH, ID, green, white, type human, and then Oracle is, in quotes, tap, add, CMC is less than or equal to 2. And then you can just find all the humans that have, which is a ton of them, all the humans that have tap abilities that are 2 mana, tap, add a mana. And I think I must have done this on for my own Sigarda deck as well. So if I go look that up, compare the Garda font. So yeah, I added all the best ones. So like Whisper of the Wilds. What was the other ones? Whisper of the Wilds. I added this guy just because you're playing a 4-power commander. Reclusive Taxidermist, Intrepid Paleontologist, Biophagus, Catilda. I actually have Flawless Maneuver in mine. Boromir as another human that can give indestructible to your team. Oh, Steward of Valoron was the other one I added. I also had Augur of Autumn. You want other cards that can let you just cast things off the top as well, because you do have some creatures, presumably, that are not either an angel or human, so that Sigarda can't actually let you cast them. This also lets you play lands off the top too. So I have stuff like that. I had Seraph in here as well. I just wanted things that could give Sigarda also hexproof, so that everything would be hexproof. So Shalai is obviously shared in both of our decks, but Seraph is another one. So yeah, I would just take a look at that. And then you have Mill. I also made I wound up making a Captain N deck as well. Yeah, okay, so these single target mill spells like Jace Memory Adept are just not worth it. If you think about this, you're milling 1/10 of one player's deck, right? Absolutely just not worth it. Ashiok is each player mills 2 and draw a card, but it's 6 mana to do this. I went way less into the whole horror theme than you did, though, because I found most of them weren't good. Whenever this attacks and isn't blocked, defending player loses 1 life for each card in their graveyard. Yeah, so when I built my own Captain N deck after seeing this one, I think I only wound up having 7 horrors in the whole deck. So obviously, if your goal is a horror tribe deck, then that's fine. But if you're playing just like the best mill cards, so many of these horrors are bad. Then we've got instants. Wait, what does the types and tags say? You still got a bunch of stuff that's untagged, so let's just flip back to types. All right, Damnation, Demonic, Extract from Darkness is bad. So the mill cards that are good are, let's see. Ruin Crab, Consuming Aberration is defensible, Bruvac. I don't think I even bothered to play Nemesis of Reason, because again, it's just, you're paying 5 mana, it doesn't even do anything when it enters, it has to attack someone, and then it's milling 1/10 of one player's deck. There is, yeah, Fractured Sanity and Maddening Cacophony are both good. Psychic Corrosion. You have Memory Erosion in here? No, you don't. If I'm playing dedicated mill, I think I would want Memory Erosion. I would also want Mesmeric Orb. Okay, you do have Orb. Cruel Somnophage, I would not want. This card's not even a horror, it's a nightmare. I don't know how much Cellar Spawn is even going to trigger. I guess it's a cost reducer for your other horrors though, right? Yeah, okay, that's fine. Yo, no. Like, I didn't bother to play Zelix in mine. I didn't bother to play most of these. Mind Skinner, yeah, that's good. Mind Breaker, on the other hand, is just not worth it. 7 mana, yeah, you can unearth it, but that means it has to get in your graveyard and it's only a one-shot. There's a Myriad equipment that would enable it to be good. Which card are we referring to? It's Blade of Selves, first of all, but which Myriad creature are we talking about? Oh, Nemesis? No, that won't work, because the creatures will come in attacking and not trigger. You have a better mana base here. You still have too many islands and swamps, but that's fine. You're in a Nephalia Drownyard. Other than that, if you're on a budget, this is mostly fine. How much ramp is this? 1, 2, 3. Not really counting. I guess I'll be generous and count this. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9, 10, 11. Still not enough. I also really don't think this is a Dark Ritual deck because you need mana for a lot of your other stuff. It's not like you can just go, boom, here's my commander, and now I'm going to like win, or I'm going to draw a bunch of cards. So I definitely don't think it's a Dark Ritual deck. I've generally not liked Drown in the Loch because there's too many times where it doesn't work, even in dedicated milling. There's just going to be times where, like, maybe you milled one player but not another player, or maybe players, like, ate their graveyard with a Delve spell, or it's just early in the game and you can't even use it, right? Like, it's turn 2, my opponent casts Rhystic Study. I really need to counter it, but they don't have anything in their graveyard yet, and it just doesn't function. And yeah, play basically almost any 2 mana or less counter spell before playing these 3 mana ones. You want, here is my Captain N deck. Captain N. As you can see, yeah, I did do combo stuff over here too. But aside from that, where's my creatures? So I have 20 creatures, some of which are horrors, but not all. Like, in fact, not even most. So this is the Captain N deck if you want to take a look at it. Captain, whatever the heck, how you pronounce this, Gathrid? Gathrid? Yeah, Captain Gathrid. Captain N. Oh, I forgot to give a description to my last one that I built. Mothman and Lauren, I forgot. Did I give one to Maha? Yes, I did. Mothman. Infinitely loop Mothman to add infinite rad counters, which equal mill via multiple different combos. And Lauren will be multiple 3 to 5 card combos involving looping creatures, mainly around Lotus Petal. How many basics are a good amount of basics? As few as you can get. Your 2-color deck, you want the maximum amount of your lands being able to tap for 2 different colors. Now, that's normally not a problem if you don't have any budget restriction. If you do have a budget restriction, it then comes down to how many of my lands always enter the battlefield tapped. So actually, if I go back to yours, Ranguszx ZX. All right, so you want to weigh your basic count versus how many of your lands are going to enter tapped, right? And you want to figure out basically, like, so some of the problems is, you know, you've got cards like the Mind Skinner that are triple blue that you're going to want to cast. But let's set that one aside for now. Let's say that's the outlier, right? Let's say I just need to make sure that I've got both of my colors in the early game. Essentially what you want to do is go to your hypergeometric calculator, and then you want to figure out, okay, how many lands in my deck actually produce a specific color, right? So let's just assume I have an equal amount of lands that produce blue and black, right? Which is one of the reasons that you don't want Nephalia Drownyard and none of these colorless lands. So Nephalia doesn't count, so we've got 30... What the heck? 30... Calculator. We've got 30 lands, -1 for Drownyard, and then there are... All the rest of them are equal, except for... You've got one more blue than black, right? Because of Mystic Sanctuary. I also wouldn't play. And then you can't necessarily count on Cavern of Souls to produce the colors. So let's get rid of Cavern of Souls as well. Doesn't, or not like remove it from the deck, but I mean, we're not counting it when we're counting colors. And then you are only producing a certain color. So let's say -5 because we've got Islands, Mystic Sanctuary. So let's say I'm looking at black, right? So 23 of my lands are black. Or produce black. Actually, no, Shizo and Mystic Sanctuary are the same. Okay, +1. So 24. Let's say I've got 24 lands that produce one color and then 24 lands that produce the other color. So then we punch our hypergeometric calculator. So we've got 99 cards in our deck. 24 of those are lands that produce a specific color. We're going to draw a 7-card opening hand. I need to see one of these cards in my opening hand, right? So our odds are 86% chance, which is actually pretty good. So if you do have budget considerations, then maybe 4/4 is fine. But that does mean that about 14 to 15% of the time, you're just going to color brick. And you're going to have to mulligan because you don't have one of your colors, right? Whereas, let's say that these basics were not here, or you just had one of each, right? So that means you get to add, let's say, transform 3 of these islands and 3 of these swamps into dual lands, right? That means you can turn this number into, not 30, you can turn it into, you still have 30 lands total, so then that means you have 27 when you account for Cavern, Nephalia, and let's get rid of Nephalia. Let's say you don't have Nephalia. So that means you've got 30 lands and you only got 1 island, 1 swamp, right? Every other land produces both colors. So that means you've got 29. That means your odds are 91% to hit. So now you don't have color issues as much. That's why I don't like playing multiple basics. Which actually usually winds up being the opposite when you're a monocolor deck. Because then you can take advantage of the fact that most of your lands are basics by having really annoying stacked stuff happen to other people. So cards like Winter Moon, Blood Moon, Ruination. What's the one in Back to Basics? Harbinger of the Seas. That kind of stuff. All right. Out. Anyway, just as a quick recap, these are usually the tools I use. Moxfield to build the deck, Scryfall to search for specific things, EDH Rec to go find stuff that you might have overlooked, Commander Spellbook to find combos, Hypergeometric Calculator if you need to run the stats on something. All right, so we've got our Commander Randomizer. What's it going to be? Lauren really just strikes me as being a worse version of Teshar, but let's do it. Random. Ben Aki Hermit. 4 mana 1/1 tap. It deals damage to target attacking creature equal to the number of untapped mountains you control. Alright, so first of all, let's just ignore... We're never shooting our opponent's creatures. Like, that's not what we're trying to do with this. What we're going to try to do with it is put as many mountains in play as possible, and then have this guy shoot Stuffy Doll or something. But we're in red. So any of our ramp, I mean, there's red cards that go find more mountains, but not put them directly into play. There's what? Wayfarer's Bauble. Let's see if this is even viable before I start getting into this. So, ID red. Search your library. And it needs to say land or mountain. And it probably needs to not cost a bajillion mana, so 3. 3 and under, not a land. Yeah, there's Wayfarer's Bauble. Sword of the Animist, I guess, would be the next best way. Burnished Heart. And then after that, there's really nothing, right? Navigation Orb. I mean, there's some cards that go and fetch mountains. And then after that, let's say we do that. Then we're going to have our random commander, so then, or our Ben Aki Hermit. So we've got 4 mana. We probably want to immediately give this haste, plus have ways of untapping it. There are ways of untapping it in colorless, and plenty of ways of giving it haste. So then the main thing that it comes down to is whenever card name is dealt damage, we've got Taunter, Stuffy Doll. Stuffy Doll's only 1 player, right? And Brash Taunter's also only 1 player. Silverclad Ferocidons is 7. Although it's a pretty good payoff if you manage to do it. Also, you can only deal... So for these ones, you can obviously deal as much as you want. For Silverclad Ferocidons, you can only deal as much as you can before it dies, right? Or I guess you can still deal a lot to it. Okay. So obviously our commander is bad. Let's just get that out of the way. It's obviously bad, but it's buildable. We can build it. So let's do it. Ben Aki Hermit. All right, so starter kit, 1 mana color. We're gonna want stacks in here because we're 1 color. We got to protect our commander. We've got to ramp. We've got to give our commander haste. We've got to untap our commander. Probably got to tutor up some guys. Maybe add Patrick Star, Bikini Bottom, Punching Bag. It has a bit of synergy. Wait. I'm really debating whether you're fucking with me or whether that was actually a card that was previewed. Because I know there's a SpongeBob Secret Lair, but what is the over-under on this being real? Okay. Would they have previewed the cards in the Secret Lair? SpongeBob Secret Lair. Alright, you're fucking with me, right? Okay. I thought so. Alright, so there's a lot of stuff to cut from here, first of all. Obviously, also, the tempt whenever you have mono red is like just jam dual caster Molten Duplication into the deck because it's so easy. But I feel like if you're going out of your way to build Ben Aki Hermit, then you don't want to just jam that. It's the same thing as like, yeah, you could just jam Consult Oracle into every single deck that supports it, but that's so boring. So instead... Alright, so let's get rid of Temple, the Rainbow lands, the fetch lands that we're not going to need. I'm not going to play Hall of the Bandit Lord in this deck, so let's get rid of that. Actually, am I? The creature also needs to be attacking, right? No, I'm just going to have generic haste across the board, which means I'm also not going to bother with Arena of Glory because I need the creature, I need Aki and the creature to both have haste. Or I guess I just need one of them to have haste, but... Alright, Arena of Glory is probably okay. I'm not going to play Hall of the Bandit Lord, though. Then let's do this. Inventor's Fair. Possible that there are artifacts that I want to grab with it, but probably not. Definitely not a Nykthos deck. Alright, fetch. Shatter Skull. Only if we have an infinite mana combo, but we'll come back to that. Shinka. I'll get rid of that one. Urborg, Cave, then fetch, Java Maya. Yeah. Monavault is fine. Grim Monolith. Generator Servant. I might be fine with that one. Okay. Bitter Reunion, no, we're going to get rid of that one. I don't want temporary haste. So then there is, we'll take Construct, get out of here. Clock of Omens, get out of here. And then there's Bolt Bend, which we can't use. Defense Grid, Swat, Lightning Greaves, Ricochet Trap. Okay, and then Burnout, Pyro Red to Bolt's Trickery. Then we've got our ramp cards. We've got, let's add a bunch of mountains. So add, what is it? 20, not 28, 18 that we're missing. We get to 30. Yeah, there we go. Chaos Warp, Wild Magic Surge, Vandal Blast, usually good to add. Gamble, no. Expedition Bap, no. Recruiter, yes. Engineer, maybe. Moonsilver Key. I don't know what I need to fetch first. Okay, so Cursed Totem, obviously we can't run that with our commander. But we can run Blood Moon Ashes, Magus, Ruination. And then we can run Winter Moon. Untappers, Servant, and then let's get rid of Voltaic Key, Manifold Key, Patriarch's Seal. That's fine. Sonic Screwdriver, let's get rid of that. Sting doesn't really work with our dude. Get rid of that. Get rid of Clock. And then we've got these ones. So we only have 3 untappers. Actually, we only have 3 untappers that I have packaged. There might be more. Untap target creature. Not really. Fear of missing out. Yeah, there's threaten effects too. So if this is the only threaten effect that's showing up, then that would mean, what else does it have to be worded? Like untap that creature? Or untap it? Yeah, okay, so what about ones that cost less than 3? Claim the Firstborn doesn't apply to our guy because he's 4 mana. Wrangle does. So, but for Wrangle, I may as well just play something else because then I got to play Aki plus some other guy. What were the 3 mana ones that are creatures? ETB, Mass, when you do, until end of turn, gain control of target non-legend. Okay, so that's not it. Probably don't want the threaten effects. Let's not bother with those. This is probably enough. Okay. And then we've got haste. I don't want one-off hastes, though. Torch Courier out, Rabbit Battery, I'm just going to use the mass ones. So Greaves is fine. Lava Spur is fine because we can Saga it. But let's get rid of this. Need for Speed and Boots. And then let's just keep Ashling's Prerogative. And Mass Hysteria or just Mass Hysteria? Just Mass Hysteria. This deck is probably a Jessica's Will deck. Add that. And we've got all this ramp. We're going to add more ramp on top of this. So first of all, get rid of Amber. But, and then we're also going to want Ruby Medallion. Almost certainly not a Facebreaker deck. But, I don't know. We'll come back to that. I'll start cutting the ramp once I figure out the other mountain tutoring stuff. All right, so color identity is red, and then search your library. Mountain. Less than 5. That can't be. The only one that gets mountains. Koth gets mountains. Search your library. Mountain. Yeah, and the fetch lands, like Koth, Alpine Guide. Why didn't any of these show up? All right, well, no clue why that didn't happen. Back here, so let's add Burnished Heart, Navigation Orb, Wayfarer's Bauble. There's probably cheaper cards than Koth that can go find mountains. Do I want this Alpine Guide? If he dies, we have to sack a mountain, and he has to attack. Probably not. Not a land. All right, instead of mountain, land. Or Sword of the Animist. Sure, Sword of the Animist. I guess I want as many of my lands to be mountains as possible. Oh, number of untapped mountains you control. I didn't even remember that part. Oh boy, this is going to be even more difficult. Jesus. What untaps all of our lands in red? Early Harvest is green. Turnabout is blue. Sword of Feast and Famine? That has to connect. I guess it can connect, and then the creature's still attacking because we're still in combat. So Sword of Feast and Famine. The Goblin Welder. What else? I might need to do Mer Retriever loops. So Mer Retriever. I added Nav Orb, right? Yeah. Sword of the Animist. Why not? Sword of the Animist. Burnished Heart, I guess, technically counts as ramp. Moon Silver Key goes and fetches mana abilities. This is not relevant. Get rid of this. Vendor's Fair, also not relevant. All right, then we're going to want... Okay, so we are needing to connect with people because we've got Sword of Feast and Sword of the Animist. So we are going to have a bunch of creatures, which means we do want Professional Facebreaker and a bunch of creatures. Oh, what else can we do? Oh, God. Let's switch this to actually Jessica's Will. What else is here? This goes to your hand. If a creature attacks, if you search your library for basic, put it on the battlefield tap. Yeah, okay, so Bitterhorn. Bitterhorn. Oh, Bitterthorn. All springs to the hand. Pilgrim's Eyes to the hand, right? Yeah. Armillary Sphere. Most of this is to the hand. When Canoptic Wraith deals combat damage to a player, you may pay 3 and sack it. If you do, search for 2 basics. The same name, put them onto the battlefield tapped. Alright. Canoptic Wraith. Basically a worse version of Burnished Heart because we have to hit somebody with it, although it is unblockable. Search your library for X basics, where X is the number of players who control at least 2 more lands than you, and put them onto the battle. Okay, no, nope. Let's say battlefield. Hearthenhome technically goes and fetches a basic, although it's 5 mana before you have it equipped to anything. Do I have Imperial Recruiter in here? Yeah, okay. Prada. Search your library for a basic, put it on the battlefield, tap shuffle. The player to your right gains control of this. That's a big no from me. Oh, get rid of Arid and Bloodstained. And Shatter Skull. Great Furnace is in here, so Mox Opal can be turned on. I guess that's fine. Well, let's get rid of Arena of Glory. Man, haste is a lot worse when our lands have to be untapped, eh? Type, artifact. When card name dies, return. Another workshop assistant. All right, so that's all the ramp I can get. So let's get rid of Brazen Collector's probably the... I was going to say it's the worst one, but it's not actually because it's a creature that can attack. So never mind that. So we're going to get rid of the colorless ones first. So yeah, the Everflowing, Orc I keep, Mindstone get gone. And Thought Vessel. And we got to keep cutting from here. So now it is, what's the next worst ones out of all of these? We're not getting rid of our creatures. So I guess Ornithopter. But Ornithopter produces red, which is basically the same thing as Fire Diamond. Oh, it's flying too. That can be good if we put a equipment on it. Ooh. 28's way too much, so probably just all the non-creatures are going to get cut, eh? So Fire Diamond, Cold Steel Heart, Arcane Signet. That seems so wrong. Liquid Metal Torque is good with Engineer and Vandal Blast, so let's not get rid of that one. I don't know, maybe we do just want a bajillion pieces of ramp. What's our actual card count right now? 87. Okay, so then we've got Stuffy Doll, Brash Haunter, color identity red, and it needs to be a creature, and it needs to say when card name is dealt damage. Or I know it needs to say whenever it's dealt damage. Whenever a card name is dealt damage. All right, so there are 19 results. What do we have? Whenever it's dealt damage, deals that much damage to each player, including us, so no. Tapped, doesn't untap during your untap step. When it's dealt damage, untap it. Okay, that's bad. Exile that many cards from the top of your library. Choose one until end of turn. So Impulse draws and dies. Fire Drinker hurts you. It deals 2 damage to target opponent. No. Is dealt damage, deals that much damage to any target, but it doesn't have indestructible. Jackal Pup, obviously not. Log Maniac. Is dealt damage, deals an equal amount of damage to target opponent. No. Needle Raptor is 5 to an opponent creature, but it's just going to die. Screaming Nemesis. Same type of deal. We would need this to be a huge amount, and we're not going to get that high. Silverclad Ferocidons we already saw, and that one's fine. I guess I could have stuff that makes our guys indestructible. Deal that much damage to target. So it's mainly Stuffy Doll and Taunter. Deal 3 damage to target opponent. Whenever it's dealt damage, flip a coin. If you lose, sack it. Dealt damage, venture into the dungeon. Can you make an emoji deck? I have an emoji deck. It is already made. Man, that's not a lot of options, is it? Deal damage to target attacking creature equal to the number of untapped mountains you control. How is Sword of Feast and Famine worded? Sword of Feast. So, Oracle, untap all lands. Okay. Well, that wasn't it. I thought we had one more of them besides just Sword of Feast and Famine that untapped our lands. Untaps all lands. Untaps each land. Tap each land. Tap each mountain. Taps each mountain. Untaps all mountain. Tap all mountain. Untap all basic. All right. What do you got for me, EDH Rec? Ben. Stuffy Brash, they are playing these terrible guys. I guess we could run Indestructibility. What would we do with that? Mithril Coat is the only thing I can think of. I guess Eldrazi Monument would be another way of doing it. Eldrazi Monument, just give all of our stuff indestructible. Mithril Coat. Where is that? Auto attaches to a legend, but it doesn't have to. Actually, let's take a look at this. Indestructible type equipment. There's Mithril Coat, there's Hammer of Nazan, or another equipment that is attached that equipment to target creature you control. Okay, Hammer technically costs less than Mithril because it attaches to anything. Dark Steel Plate's another one. So Hammer of Nazan, Dark Steel Plate, and then we can run these terrible creatures like Mog Maniac. What about not equipment or lands? Ulfim. Ulfim would make sense, right? It can give itself indestructible and then... Wait, no, because it doesn't redirect the damage. Never mind. I mean, it just makes the damage higher in general, I guess. We probably do need damage increasing effects. So, Sulfim. Not Ogier Axonal because we're going to hopefully be dealing more than 4. Yeah, there's Koth to go get more mountains. Arc Bond. Choose target creature. Whenever that creature is dealt damage this turn, deals that much damage to each other creature and each player. Well, that kills all of our own stuff too, so no. What about Anger? Anger would give haste to every creature. And we already got Mass Hysteria. And a bunch of other things. Haste is not even going to be that important because we have to... It's our untapped mountains that it counts. Walking Atlas to put lands onto the battlefield. That does make sense. Most of the things that go fetch lands just are... I've made all of our land fetching put it directly onto the battlefield, right? So... And all the other ones are what? There's all of the... There's 3 different artifacts that are like... Activate for 2 or 3 mana, go fetch a basic, and all of those are bad. And there's Koth, which is 4 mana. Spitting Earth, deal damage to target creature equal to the number of mountains you control. And then the same thing here with Seismic Strike. Alright, yeah, I'm not going to bother with that. Column. Basilisk Collar, so that we can gain life off of it. I don't really care about that. Dictate. Damage can't be prevented. White Toralf. Whenever creature or planeswalker and opponent controls dealt excess non-combat damage, deals damage equal to the excess to any other thing. Geode Rager for goading. Target creature or player equal to the number of mountains is dealt damage. Fumiko. I guess I should... Yeah, that's one thing I didn't search for. Number of mountain. ETB, deal X to each other creature without flying in each player, where X is mountains. Includes us. Okay, that's all bad. What about... Does this one say? Deal X to target opponent or planeswalker and half rounded up to you, where X is your mountains. No. What about instead of number of mountains, how about number of basic lands? Domain, so no. Number of land. Man, there's really not a lot to work with here. All right, what else you got for me, Ben? There was a Screaming Nemesis. And what's the sliver called? Spiteful Sliver. Whenever this or a creature it's paired with is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to target opponent. This is 4 mana for that. Sure, Donna Noble. Not like our deck's efficient to begin with. Why not? Whenever this is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to any target that isn't a dragon. What a weird... I mean, at that point at 5 mana, you've already got Taunter and Stuffy Doll, so I feel like that's not good enough anymore. Although Taunter and Stuffy Doll, or Stuffy Doll specifically, chooses a specific player, so it will eventually run out. Same thing here, Wrathful Raptors. I guess those are fine. Wrathful Dragon. Wrathful Raptors. Angrass Marauders. If a source you control deal damage to permanent or player, deal double. Is there a cheaper version? There's got to be a cheaper version than 7, right? Probably in the enchantments. Magus the Wheel, Kazul. Blah, 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 blah. This is all fine. Ojer does not work. ETB, search your library for a basic or cave and put it onto the battlefield. Okay. Scampering Surveyor. Instant or sorcery spell targets one thing. No. Whenever this becomes tapped, you may put a land from your hand onto the battlefield or return a land from your graveyard to the battlefield. No. Basic land into your hand. Okay, I imagine most of the instants and sorceries are going to be basically irrelevant, and that would seem to be the case. Yep, that is the case. All right, moving on. So yeah, then there's Blazing Sunsteel. But let's just play the creatures that redirect damage, not the equipment that do it. And this is also 6 mana between having it and equipping it. We have Ruby Medallion, right? Ruby, yeah. And yeah, Thematic Compass, Journeyer's Kite, there's the other one that does the same thing, which are all far less efficient than anything else we could do to get mountains. Fiend Lash is the other one, but we don't really need that either. I guess it's an artifact that we can get off Goblin Engineer, and it's the same mana as some of the red stuff, so sure. Some of the like other creatures that we have, so Fiend Lash. Do we need all these 4s? I don't think so. Or 5 mana ones rather. Let's get rid of Wrathful. Sword, Journeyer's Pariah's Shield. All the damage that we dealt to you is dealt to a equipped creature instead. Sting, Bitterhorn, or Bitterthorn rather. Thunderbite Staff, or Thornbite Staff. Whenever a Shaman enters, you may attach Thorn. What type is Ben? He is a Shaman. So creature deals 1 to target creature or player, and whenever a creature is put into a graveyard to play, untap this creature. Whenever a Shaman enters, you may attach Thornbite Staff to it. So what does that do? Ben enters, this attaches to it. It has a crappy ping ability that we don't care about, and then it also has whenever a creature dies, untap this creature. But the creatures that we're shooting presumably are not dying. And if they are dying, then that's not going well for us. So it doesn't seem like a card I would actually want. Battle Mage's Bracers to double the effect -1 because you got to pay 1 to trigger this. Sure. Battle Mage's Bracers. And there's also Illusionist Bracers. There's no free equips in red, right? I guess there's Fervent Champion. I could also just have Rings of Brighthearth, I suppose. Rings of Brighthearth. And there's Sword of Hearth and Home. Sure, why not? All of our cards are unbelievably inefficient anyway. Remember, look at the top if it's a land, put it on the battlefield if it's a land, or just nothing happens. Monument to Perfection, similar to Journeyer's Kite. Got all this stuff. Enters the battlefield under control of an opponent of your choice? No, absolutely not. Gauntlet of Might to increase all mountain abilities. Also no. There's Rings. All right, if a creature you control will deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals double that. Gratuitous. Gratuitous Violence. Repercussion. The creature's controller, so that's us, so that's not good. Whenever a creature an opponent controls is dealt excess non-combat damage and mass X. No. City on Fire. Sure. City on Fire. Blood Moon, we got that. We have all this stuff, or it doesn't matter. Resource you control deals non-combat damage. You may exile that many from the top of your library. You may play those cards this turn. Virtue of Courage. So this is half removal, half card draw. Beatdown effect. Beatdown effect. And protection for the indestructibility stuff. Alright, what else we got? Each creature gets... Enchanted creature gets +1/0 for each mountain. Attack a snow mountain. No creatures deal damage in combat this turn? What? Then there's the planeswalkers, and then there's the rest of this stuff. And don't really care about the rest of this stuff. Okay. So we're 7 over. We can probably cut a lot of redundant stuff. So our main payoffs right now are... Where are they? So there's Brash Taunter and Stuffy Doll. And then there's also... where are they? Mogmaniac, Screaming Nemesis, Spiteful Sliver, Donna Noble, and Silverclad Ferocidons. We've got Sword of Feast and Famine in order to untap all of our mountains. And we've got, let's get rid of Pinnacle Monk, I think. Yeah, that. Increasing damage with Virtue of Courage and whatnot. But in order for these creatures to, like, take damage, we need to give them Indestructible so that they don't just die. So that's where Hammer of Nazan and Darksteel Plate come in. We've got some untap effects, so we can potentially use Ben Benaki Hermit multiple times. Also, the damage increasing effects like Sulfim, Gratuitous Violence, and City on Fire. Increased damage output. How many creatures we have? We have 28. Okay, that's fine. So the main things I'm looking to do are get rid of redundancies. So possibly Donna Noble. I think I want to keep this one though. And then there's, yeah, Mogmaniac, Screaming Nemesis, Spiteful. And this one just has like a really big effect. This one is potentially really good even if we don't give it Indestructible, because blast this, our opponents sack all their stuff, seems great. So then there is all the mana that we're using to get up to what we need, and our untap effects. How many cards in our deck are actually red? 34, and of those, the ones that do not get reduced in cost are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, actually, no, Vandal Blast does. 5 Wild Magic Surge. So it's 29 plus our commander, so 30. So Ruby Medallion applies to a third of our deck. That's good enough. We also have a Eldrazi Monument to give Indestructible. So the main things that feel redundant are probably our ramp spells. Liquid Metal Torque I always like for being able to turn things into artifacts, and that has two synergies here. One, it turns things into artifacts for Vandal Blast to blow up. Two, it turns things into artifacts so we can weld them with Goblin Welder or Goblin Engineer. Right now I have Workshop Assistant and Mer Retriever, and that's mainly so that I can sack stuff to Goblin Welder without technically losing and like going down cards, but that's probably not that great, so let's just cut that. And then we've also got Battle Mages, Bracers, Illusionist Bracers, and Rings of Brighthearth all to combo with our commander. So the best one out of these is Rings. It's the cheapest initial, probably Rings, and then after that it would be They're all pretty equivalent though, and Battle Mage's Bracers gives haste. Gotta cut 5 cards. So what is going? Tons of ramp. So much ramp that I could potentially get rid of Felwar, Liquimetal Torque, and Arcane Signet. So sure, let's cut all that. Although again, remember, some of that is like the less than good stuff like Bauble, Scampering Surveyor, but you know, Navigation Orb, but that's still probably fine. And it's also 4 over the amount that I would normally play anyway. So we just need to make space, and then what else can we get rid of? What does Imperial Recruiter actually tutor? Tutors the Welders, tutor, like all these creatures, I don't care. It doesn't matter if it tutors those. It tutors some of our burn guys, so it's kind of like having an extra copy of those, but not really. Like, it doesn't really matter. And we have multiple copies of them. I think we can run Darksteel Citadel in this deck, right? Because we've got Ashes and Ruination are Destroy. Yeah, so we can afford to run Darksteel Citadel. Darksteel Citadel. And then do we want Monovault and Grim Monolith for our guy? Or I also thought about them in terms of like some of these 5 drops. Although we don't... We're probably going to have to pass the turn on any of these combo turns that we do, so... All right, we can get rid of Vault and Grim, I guess. Even Generator Servant is probably a card that we can get rid of. Yeah, you know what? Let's get rid of Generator Servant. Get rid of Generator Servant, and we'll put back Arcane Signet then. So what in the world is the description for this deck? Use Ben to deal a bunch of damage to a redirection creature, such as Brash Haunter. I mean, yeah, I guess that's what it is. Damage to a creature that redirects its damage to an opponent. Use Ben to deal a bunch of damage to one of your own attacking creatures that redirects the damage to an opponent such as Brash Taunter. What an inefficient deck, but hey, it's unique, eh? All right, well, that took a while. Here is the Ben link. This deck's $1,450. What is the actual expensive cards in here? It's probably just Mox Diamond and Chrome, right? And One Ring. Yeah, so this deck, if you just go 1457 minus 628 for Mox Diamond, minus another 96 for Chrome Mox, and then 92 for Ancient Tomb, 87 for Opal, and 56 for the One Ring. Immediately, you're down to 498. You can easily cut Gemstone Caverns. You're down to 449. After that, any additional cuts you make would probably start to get a little dicey in terms of like making the deck worse. Not that the deck was that good to begin with, because it's not. But the point is, you can easily cut the price by a third without much of an issue. Man, we are gonna get some stuff, eh? All right, I need to take a quick break. Just need to get up, stretch my legs and whatnot. So if you have needed to take a break for any reason, take that opportunity now, and we'll be back in a bit. All right. Random Commander. What do we have in store this time? It is Miara, Thorn of the Glade. Whenever it or another elf you control dies, you can pay 1 and 1 life. If you do, draw a card, and it has Partner. Oh, am I going down the Partner rabbit hole? Presumably we would partner this with something green so that we can get all the elves, right? All right, so partner is commander. Color greater than or equal to green. So let's see, we want to go wide because elf. We want mana because we have to pay for this, and we want sack outlets. Discard 2 mana? Yeah, okay. What would be the most natural inclusion? Cut out partner with. There's Kamal to go wide. There's Kodama to do Cloudstone Curio loot bullshit. There's Galandra to just be a mana creature. Rayhan is in our colors. Ikra is also in our colors already. We could be a Thrasios deck. Beginning of combat on your turn, you may pay XX when you distribute X counters among any number of target elves. Okay, so this is the only one that cares about elves. Also, this one directly contradicts what we're trying to do with Miara, because Miara wants us to sack our elves, and this one wants us to keep our elves around and invest in them by getting counters onto them. Whenever Slurk or another creature you control dies, if it had a +1 counter on it, put a +1 counter on each creature you control that has a +1 counter on it. What a weird ability. Commanders have indestructible. As long as it's your turn. Brilliant. So helpful. Rayhan's similar to Slurk in that it cares about creatures dying and getting +1 counters. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 2. When you do, that creature deals damage equal to its power to target creature. So it's not even fighting it. If it was fighting it, then our guys could potentially die and we could trigger to draw. I'm just going to veto this. It sounds like a nightmare to try to do the logistics of all the partner guys. I'll do them if they sound interesting. This just sounds like a nightmare. And not only that, but very, very generic. It's just going to be like, slam all the best like mana elves into a deck and then just do this thing. Because none of this really goes with what that is doing. And then there's like, well, do we pick a card like Tana, for example, and be in 3 colors because that's technically better? Yeah. I don't know. I liked the challenge of Ben of trying to take a commander that was obviously bad and build some kind of deck around it. But now this one immediately has the problem of like, well, why don't I just give it a commander partner that is 2 colors that it isn't, and then we're a 3 color deck, so we're just automatically better. All right, veto. Random the next guy. We are Barrowin of Clan Under. When it enters the battlefield, venture into the dungeon. Whenever it attacks, return up to 1 creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield if you've completed a dungeon. I'm probably going to veto all the dungeon stuff too, because dungeons are, outside of the initiative obviously, the dungeons are so terrible, and it therefore means that any dungeon-based commander automatically is like, how can I infinitely flicker this thing to just like go through all the dungeons to win the game, right? So it immediately devolves into like, well, we'll just play this with a Sararak and do some sort of Cloudstone Curio loop or whatever, and then just win the game with that. And they all just kind of do the same thing. We even built a dungeon commander on a previous stream, and that's basically what all that happens there as well, which is that you just go, oh, just do a Sararak and a Lurin, although we can't be a Lurin because we're not green here, but it's the same kind of deal. So vetoed. Next, Ghost of Ramirez DPH. Oh, it's another partner commander. All right, just scrap the partners. Random. Rose Tyler, Doctor's Companion, which is basically partner. What does she do? Gets +1 for each time counter. Whenever attacks, put a time counter on it for each suspended card you own and each other permanent you control with a time counter on it. Doctors, companions, partners. No. Random. Valkospara, I've already built this. Random. The Goose Mother. ETB with X counters. When it enters, you create half food, where half of X, and then when it attacks, you may sack a food if you do draw a card. So technically, I mean, we don't have to dump a ton of mana into it. Obviously, we want to be food themed, right? So blue-green food. All right. The Goose. The Goose Mother. I guarantee the description of this is going to be get food, draw cards. All right, types and tags. Starter kit. 2-color mana. Goose Mother itself doesn't need like a ton of protection, so I mean I will add that, but we can come back to that later. Ramp. So you can technically just play this for 2 and then just start drawing cards, right? As long as you've got other things that make food. Ramp? No. Gonna want counter spells. So I'm obviously food themed, but apart from that, I'm not sure what we want. So let's go with, that's all fine. Okay. Obvious cuts are off-color fetches. Black and white's the other one. Marsh Flats. 36. Urborg. 35 lands. Probably not doing this. Get rid of Disciple. Hydroelectric Specimen, that can get out of here. Then get rid of this one. Xantid. Misdirection. We do want Lightning Reeves. Spellskite. Sylvan Safekeeper can get gone. Get rid of this one. A Dosen. City, or Defense Grid. Rest of this is probably fine. And let's get rid of Muddle the Mixture. And the remaining counter spells are probably fine. Let's get rid of Rest Down. Oh, Lorien Revealed's in this list. Oh yeah, get rid of Lorien. Mana Vault out of here. Technically, Devoted Druid make an infinitely huge Goose Mother and infinite food is something. So Luxior. And we'll get rid of the Mana Rocks, except for the main 3. Fanatic of Ronus, Farseek, Belwar, Liquimetal, Mindstone, Opal, Ornithopter, Nature's Lore, Thought Vessel, 3 visits. Okay, 16 ramp? 16 ramp. What am I missing? I would normally have more than that. Get rid of Boreal Druid. Bloom Tender. I kind of like Bloom Tender because Goose Mother is a 2-color card that we can always play from the command zone for 2. Canon, no. Oh, Mox Amber, that's great. There we go, 17. And we got a removal. This is fine as well, except for probably into the Flood Maw. All right, that looks good. So this is a total of 80 cards. That's quite a lot. Mana Drain. Let's go to Mana Drain. Let's go to Counterspell. And from there, go to the advanced search and look up anything that's in blue and green and that says food in the Oracle text. I guess it could be type food. It doesn't have to be food in the Oracle, but let's just do food in the Oracle. Yeah, so Academy Manufacturer, that was an obvious one. Let's see. It has to do more than just make food. ETB or leaves create a food. Bristle Broad ETB 2 foods. Whenever it attacks, you may sack a food. If you do mill 3, you may put a permanent from among them in your hand. Don't really care about that. ETB make a food. Sack it. Destroy target non-land permanent. That's also not very good. Cash grab. Curious pair. It needs to do something else besides just make. I guess it doesn't have to do something else besides making a food because we attack and draw cards off of food. I would like it to hypothetically do something more important than that, though. The offering. Beginning event step. If you cast both the creature and non-creature, create a clue, food, and treasure. ETB, create a food. At the beginning of your event step, if you sacked a food, you may search your library for a basic and put it on the battlefield. Tapped. No. Devour food. Feasting Troll King. Not relevant. ETB, make a food. ETB or attacks, create a food. Or treasure, or put a +1 counter on something. Sure, Galadriel. I just want to be able to keep making foods every turn. Generous net, no. Goose. Not gingerbread cabin. During your turn, artifacts you control are foods. Whenever you gain life, make a 3/3. Whenever you gain life, +1 counter on each creature you control. If you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, create a food. We don't have anything that does that, so no. Create a food, and then blah, blah, blah. ETB, put a +1 counter on it for each swirl food you control. Nope. Sack a food, give pump. When it attacks alone, create a food, so that works directly against the Goose Mother. Whenever a creature dealt damage by this turn dies, create a clue or food. No. Many Partings also was a one-off. Whenever one or more halflings you control attack a player, create a food. So as long as this can attack, we can make a food with it. Okay, that's fine. That's way, way better than Galadriel. So, go to Galadriel. Motivated Pony. Whenever it attacks, attacking creature gets +1 until end of turn. If a food entered the battlefield under your control this turn, untap those creatures, and they get an additional +2. Okay. Sack a food. Night of Sweet's Revenge, obvious. This one can create a food every turn. Oko. ETB, make 2 foods. Destroy creature flying, destroy an enchantment, or draw a card, create a food. Sure. Peregrine Took. Sack a food to pump. ETB, make a food. Attacks, you may sack a food if you do attack creatures at +1. Not that one. Not these one-offs. Return target permanent from the grave to make a food. Whenever you cast a spell with mana value 5+, make a food. Not going to be enough cards that do that. Destroy one target artifact, enchantment, or creature with flying, make a food. Sure. Although it's obviously way, 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 way less efficient than something like Nature's Claim, but whatever. If that food can convert into a card, then that's fine. Target creature you control deals combat damage equal to power to target creature you don't control, make a food. Sugarcoat. Enchant creature or food. Enchanted permanent is a food. Survivor Medkit. Choose one that hasn't been chosen. Draw a card. Create a food. Target player loses all rad counters and sack this. Search your library for a doctor. Create a food and a human. And then create a token. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. 4th doctor. Look at the top card anytime. Once each turn, you may play a historic land or cast a historic spell from the top of your library when you do create a food token. Historic stuff? We're not going to have nearly enough for that to be reliable. Dire, we can play. 3rd Doctor. When it enters, create one of those tokens. Okay. Underworld Cookbook. We don't have anything that can be looped with this to keep like discarding and getting the card back. Provisioner. Puff Cookie. Trail of Crumbs. Create your choice of blood, clue, or food. Sacrifice 3 artifacts with different names. Search your library for an artifact and put it onto the battlefield. I'm gonna say no to that one. Although it's 5 mana to keep making the thing. That's not too dissimilar to the Nuka-Cola machine because that one's already 4 mana to make the first food. Although when you sack food, you get treasures. That is better. Sure, transmutation font. And then Welcome to Sweet Tooth is also only a one-off. Witch's Oven is also only a one-off if we don't have something to keep getting back with it. Okay. That's a lot of food-related stuff. What are we up to? 94 cards. Also, basically a fight spell, so I would count that as removal. Fire, land. And spider food is also removal. So if we're playing that removal, we can cut a little bit of our removal from the removal that we already have, although... Yeah, all right. What about submerge? Let's get rid of submerge. I think I want to keep everything else, though. I would also like a... So we're going to have multiple things that give us, like, different types of artifact tokens, not just this thing. So I would like a bigger artifact that I can cheat into play with this. The only thing that comes to mind immediately is Portal to Phyrexia, but that's fine. Let's see. ID, green and blue. Type, artifact. MC is 7+, and it's a rare. Great Henge is a pretty good one. But we don't really have big creatures. Basically a beatdown card. Battlesphere. I think Portal's good enough. Maybe Sandstone Oracle is another way of drawing card. Not Sandstone. Okay, how else are we actually winning the game? So now we've got our Goose Mother, and we've got all of the food things that Goose Mother sacks the food to draw cards, and we've got like Trail of Crumbs to do the same thing. So how are we actually winning with our remaining cards? Could just be the standard old boring Crater Hoof, which seems pretty easy. We just go natural order plus Crater Hoof. And so seeing as we've got 4 remaining slots available, let's look up EDH Rec and see what they suggest. Oh yeah, how many creatures do we actually have that can attack besides just Goose Mother? So 22, although a bunch of these are like Monodorks that aren't good at attacking. Because just because Goose Mother draws cards doesn't mean that we can't play the other like Enduring Curiosity and Toski effects as well. Yeah, let's get rid of Enrith and Gilded Drake, and then play Toski, Enduring Curiosity, which obviously work very, very well when our commander is a 2-mana flyer. All right, most of this stuff is... Oh, I didn't look at stuff that actually is food. So let's look at that. Blue, green, card type is food. Candy Trail, Gingerbrute, Lembas, Sir Ginger. Probably the only one that's worth it out of all of these is Lembas, because it draws and scries a card on its own anyway. So just add Lembas to the deck. All right, what else we got? Tireless, Many Partings, Jaheira. Oh yeah, make our food tokens make mana. So Jaheira. Racist, Doubling Season to increase the amount of food production. Yeah, that makes sense. Parallel Lives just produces extra tokens as well, right? If I could put one or more tokens onto the battlefield under your control, yeah, twice that amount. Yeah, Doubling Season. Revive the Shire. Return target permanent from your... Oh yeah, we looked at that one already. Non-artifact spells you cast have Improvise. We don't have that much stuff that's expensive. Tap 2 intact artifacts to draw. Yeah, there was also overloading this to turn all of our foods into big things, although We don't have like a million ways of, I mean, we have a lot of ways of producing food, but not a ways of producing a ton of food, more like one food at a time. So Rise and Shine is kind of a good way to do it. There's also March of the Machines, the mana value equals, or the PT equal the mana value, right? So March of the Machines doesn't work, but something like the Antiquities War would work, although that has to find artifacts out of our deck, so that's not so great. And this is 6 mana, which is a lot more than I would want. Cyberdrive Awakener does seem like something that's more along the lines of what we want. All of our non-creature artifacts become 4/4s with flying. So Cyberdrive Awakener. Dunkwinder, affinity for tokens. Whenever a token enters, stun a creature. Add green and blue. Spend this only to cast spells with mana value 5 or greater or spells with X, and then it can loot. Okay. One or more tokens we created under your control. Twice that many of those tokens are created instead. So another token additive card. Adrix and Nev Twin Casters. Every time we add one of these, I've got to cut something else. 33 lands. One's Cradle, one's Shire. I guess Minamo is an acceptable cut. Kappa Cannoneer, Nexos. Feasting Troll King is just a big creature. Same thing with Feasting Hobbit. As a historic permanent enters the battlefield under your control, it becomes a 7/7 forever. So all food becomes 7/7s. Fortunately, this card is a 7 mana 7/7 that otherwise doesn't do anything, so that's pretty bad. What else can we pick from? Essex Fractal Bloom. The first time you create one or more tokens during each of your turn, you may instead choose a creature other than this creature and create that many tokens that are copies of that creature. Still 6 mana though. All right, let's move on down through here, through the instants, mostly stuff that we're not going to care about. Same thing with the sorceries. Then the utility artifacts. Yeah, Nuka-Cola, got that already. They do have Lembus. Fractal Harness. +1 counter related. They do indeed have Transmutation Font. There's Trail of Crumbs. Why Unbound Flourishing? Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery with X. Oh, because of Goose Mother, that's why. I think most of the time we're just going to be casting Goose Mother as a 2/2 without paying max into anything. All right. We're coming close to the end here. There's the lands. All right, I think we're good on that front. So right now, we're mostly a draw engine with Goose Mother. And then the ways that we win are we can either get Craterhoof off of like a natural order, or we can cast Cyberdrive Awakener and turn all of our clues into, or all of our food into 4/4 flyers. Or we've got Motivated Pony as another way. So attacks. If a food entered the battlefield under control this turn, untap this creature, you get an additional +2. So basically, this comes in, as long as we've made a food this turn, we can attack and then give +3 to everything. And then after that, there's Knight of Sweet's Revenge, where we can sack this to give creatures +X, where X is the number of foods. So we don't have an infinite combo other than Devoted Druid plus Luxior, which gives us infinite mana, and then the Goose Mother becomes infinite, plus we get infinite food tokens. But other than that, it's mainly these 4 cards later in the game just beating down on our opponents. We also have Transmutation Font, able to potentially go grab Portal to Phyrexia as like another payoff. But mainly, we are just a value deck that is trying to just draw cards off the Goose Mother. That's like the main thing. The only other thing I'm looking at is, do we have enough blue cards for Force of Will? So we have 17, so minus the Force of Will itself. So 16, 17, 18. We only have 18 cards in our deck for Force of Will. I'm not sure if that's enough, but I think it's okay. All right, so that's the Goose Mother. So Goose Mother, there's the link to the Goose Mother for anybody who wants that. And then I think we're going to make this next one the last one for the day. So let's go ahead and see what our random commander is. Sliver Queen. I do have a Sliver Queen deck already. All right. Spin it into Leer. What can we do with Leer? Obviously, all of our spells are uncounterable. And then spells in the graveyard have flashback. It just seems so boring. We're mono blue, so we can't really storm. I mean, I guess we can high tide. What fast mana is there in blue? It's high tide, energy tap. And then our win con's Brain Freeze, I guess. Okay. I suppose we can make that work. All right, so Leer. Blue, high tide, storm. So starter kit, one color mana. We're gonna need lots of counter spells. We're gonna need card draw. We're going to need fast mana. So get rid of all these fetch lands and rainbow lands. And then if we're using high tide, any land that isn't an actual island is a problem. So hydroelectric, Manamo just for the ring is probably not necessary. Get rid of this, this. Mystic Sanctuary, do we want it? Our commander gives everything flashback anyway, so... But that might fizzle, and Mystic Sanctuary is technically an island. Okay, so that's fine. Nykthos out. Otawara, that stays in. Actually, this means we need all of our fetches, right? So Flooded Strand, because we need to be able to fetch Mystic Sanctuary. So Flooded Strand and Misty, I cut. But Prismatic we don't need, so get rid of that. Tarn, Seed of the Synod, that can go. Sink into Stupor can go, and then or can stay. Urborg, Urza Saga. So Tarn, Delta, Misty, Flooded. Then Cavern, Ancient Tomb. Yeah, that's all fine. Okay, so we're definitely not a Skull Clamp deck. We're also definitely not a Enduring Curiosity deck. Fairy Mastermind, Krasalax, get rid of that. Get rid of Mystic Forge. Pollywog Prodigy is also probably a card that we're not going to use. Recurring Insight we're definitely not using. Tip we're not using. Fairy Mastermind can go. This is historic stuff, right? Yeah, that can go too. Consecrated Sphinx, get out of here. Archmage Emeritus, that stays. And then, oh, we need ramp. So ramp, and we're gonna need Sapphire Medallion. So get rid of all the creatures. So Hedron, Monacan, Millican, Amber, Merconvert, Nardole, Ornithopter, Paradise, Plaguemur, Silvermur. Ranged Assistant. Is that everything? And then let's add all the rocks. So mana values 2 is colorless. Add colorless. Evanfly, Fractured Power Stone, Grim Monolith we have already, Guardian Idol. Obsidian Obelisk, Planar Atlas, Prismatic Lens, and Iron Crag. All right. Back to the deck. So we've got 20 ramp spells. Emerge, Flood, Gilded Drake, Press Down. Okay, that's all good. Then we've got Energy Tap, so tap target creature, add an amount of colorless equal to its mana value. Lotus Petal, Vault, Grim Monolith, add High Tide. So depending on the number of islands that we have, High Tide can win with Palinchron, but you have to have, it's 7 to cast Palinchron, 4 to bounce it back to your hand. So it's 11 mana, so you need 6 islands for that to be infinite. So Dramatic Scepter seems like an obvious inclusion. So Isochron, Dramatic Reversal. Also Ghostly Flicker plus Naru May has another one to make infinite mana. Then Palinchron. Then we need Spell Tutors, so Spell Seeker. Actually, let's just add all the tutors. Okay, so get rid of this. Fabricate can grab Isochron Scepter, so that's fine. Intuition gone. Inventor's Fair, get out of here. Merchant Scroll. Actually, you know what? Inventor's Fair shouldn't get out of here. Let's not Inventor's Fair. And add some islands to the deck, so 15 of these. We have 30 lands. Yeah, 30 lands. Get rid of the cave. Up the island count. Alright, War of Invention, that's good. Trophy Mage is 3, so get rid of that. Trinket Mage is 1, get rid of that. Transmute Artifact, that's fine. Tezzeret, out. Solve the Equation. There's just better ways of getting infinite mana than High Tide, isn't there? It's just Isochron, it's just Dramatic Scepter or Ghostly Naru. Get rid of Reshape, get rid of Moon Silver Key. Merchant Scroll, depends. Probably get rid of that. All right. Show me mono blue 2-card combo. So contains 2 cards and is within blue. Mono blue. Search. Yeah, Dramatic Scepter, Rings Monolith to make infinite colorless. Forsaken Monolith, Peregrine, Deadeye, Fairy Chain Veil, Tarn Lattice Lock, various mill things. Naru, Ghostly Flicker. I guess Rings Basalt are okay as one of them. Because the rest of these are not nearly as good. So Basalt, Monolith, Rings. And then we're already playing Rings of Bright. We're already playing both Grim and Basalt Monolith, so we may as well run Power Artifact. Yeah, High Tide's just not going to matter. So since that's the case, we may as well try other things. I should have Emergent Zone in this deck, because trying to win at instant speed could be something we want to do. So our colorless lands are 1, 2, 3, Ancient Tombs 4, Caverns 5-ish. That's a bit on the heavy side, but okay. Not all the Mixture Confined stuff, so all of our counter spells are good. Not all of our ramp. We have 21. I'm 1 over what I would want normally. I think that's probably still fine. So we've got a bunch of ways of generating infinite mana, but then we don't have a way to actually win the game after that. We do have... Does Scepter cast the card? You may cast the copy. So Scepter is Infinite Storm. Basalt is not. All the Monolith combos are not, and neither is... Bouncing Palinchron now doesn't work anymore without the High Tide. Yes, let's go to Palinchron. So Scepter is Infinite Storm, but the other ones are not. So Brain Freeze alone is not a good enough effect. Although, as long as we have ways of drawing cards, the Brain Freeze can be fine probably. So Brain Freeze. I also want my Infinite Mana Outlet presumably to be a spell. Which spells does Spellseeker actually fetch? It fetches Dramatic and Brain Freeze. Okay, that's fine. There's what? Blue Sun Zenith that can kill one person at a time, but then that's it. There's obviously stuff like Ballista, or I guess we could like draw our whole deck and then cast Oracle. I'm looking more for a card that is a blue X spell that we can just instantly win the game, especially if it does something else. Mono blue and let's say X cards. Okay, yeah. Pull from tomorrow, Blue Sun. Ground and Dreams. Target player draws X, target player mills twice X. So this is one of those where you can just go, bam, 2 people instantly die, but then there's the third player is still alive. It also doesn't do anything when we don't already have infinite mana. Each player draws X, which means you'd have to have more cards than your opponent to not also lose the game. There's like Folio of Fancy, but this is not an instant or sorcery spell. I'm preferably want an instant or sorcery. Also, this card doesn't do anything on its own, which is yet another problem. So what else do we have access to? Because if I'm going to do infinite mana, then I may as well just play like Ballista. I'm not sure. All right, what does EDH Rec have to say? Lear. Oh, how many cards are we actually at right now? We're at 93. All right, whenever you cast a spell from your graveyard, draw. I don't think I'm going that route. I think I'm mainly going just the flashback as value, or we can just grab pieces that are necessary. Yeah, so the Snap, Frantic Search, Turnabout. I guess we don't... Like, we could still technically play High Tide. We just have a whole bunch of lands that aren't islands. But sure, High Tide. Snap. Frantic Search. Turnabout is more dubious. Flashback cost 2 less. Let me get a breakdown of our spells. How many of them cost 3 and up? 1, 2. I mean, not a lot. Yeah, not really much at all. Understandable why they have this, though. Yeah, there's High Tide. So obviously a bunch of people decided to do the same thing. Oh, I don't have any protection for Leer. I should at the very least have Spellskite. And flip out the back. I think I'm just better off having counter spells. And let's get rid of Tribute Mage. Fabricate's good enough. I just really don't think High Tide's worth it. We have to have a significant amount of islands in play, which either means skewing the mana more towards islands or just deciding... Like, I guess I could cut Fair and Emergent Zone. And that would just leave us with Sink into Stupor if we played it, Otawara if we played it, and Ancient Tomb and Cavern. But then High Tide also requires that we also play a bunch of like other draw spells, ways of untapping our stuff. And then we still need a way to actually win the game with High Tide, so we need like a Palinchron. So it's a card that requires we make all these concessions to making that card good. So I don't think it's worth it. Eluge. First instant sorcery spell you cast each turn costs blue less to cast for each land you control. The flood counter on it. Only the first one though. Oh yeah, Hullbreaker Horror is another way that we can generate infinite. So Hullbreaker Horror. And how many cards do we have that actually draw? There's like Ledger Shredder. Let's get rid of our Ledger Shredder. Possibly Dress Down too. Got like Frantic Search churns through cards. And then there's Archmage Emeritus to draw some more stuff. Baral and Thunderclap. Completely forgot about those. How many? So there's 30, and we have to discount any of them that only cost 1 mana or that don't have colorless in their cost. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Forcible's free 7. This is also free 8. 9, 10, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So only 15 out of them either are like don't have any generic in their costs to be reduced or are free spells. So only 15 cards in the whole deck, Baral and Thunderclap are affecting. So that's just bad. That's just so bad. Welcome, Chris. SpongeBob is not a fake meme. Indeed, he is not a fake meme. You want to see? Specifically, there it is. Actually real product. I can see Final Fantasy, but SpongeBob, what? They don't care. They have no more Fs to give. They're just grabbing at any straw they can where it can potentially make them money. Oh, Valley Flood Caller. Cast non-creature spells at flash speed. I mean, the spells at flash speed is one. I guess we don't have to have Leer in play, right? Like, it's not... Leer isn't necessary for everything in our deck to work, so sure. Valley Flood Caller. Oh yeah, I didn't even think about adding stacks to the deck. Let's definitely add some of that. So back to basics for sure. And then Curse Totem also is not going to affect any of our creatures, right? None of our creatures have activated abilities. They're all ETB triggers. And then we can obviously run Narset, Harbinger of the Seas. So get rid of this. Winter Moon is mostly one-sided. Well, that already puts us at over how much we needed. If we're running back to basics, then that does actually make me want to not play as many of these lands. So, that's one. So Urza Saga goes away. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of our lands that won't untap. Winter Moon or back to basics. I think that's okay. What else can we cut from? Maybe Dispel. I guess if I have Valley Flood Caller in the deck, then I don't need Emergent Zone as much, so we can get rid of that. Let's see, there's all the rest of this. This is all fine. We can move past this section, and then there's this section. There's the Brain Freeze. Mostly good here. Can probably get past most of this stuff. And then Sorceries, again. Did I have Merchant Scroll in here? No, I got rid of that. Okay, that's fine. Although Dramatic Reversal is a blue instant, so I probably should have Merchant Scroll. And there's all the rest of this stuff. And utility artifacts. Okay, so... I mean, Brain Freeze, Aether Flux is effectively the same thing. Brain Freeze is cheaper, and Brain Freeze is a spell that we can flashback if need be. And then I see they're playing stuff like Mesmeric Orb, because why not? Because then you can flashback stuff. I don't think you want to treat flashback as your main thing that you're trying to do. I think it's just a bonus to get value. Fortune Teller's Talent. You may look at the top card of your library. As long as you cast a spell this turn, you may play cards from the top. Spells you cast from anywhere other than your hand cost 2 less. Okay, not that. Case of the Ransacked Lab, I don't think we're also going to be chaining a whole bunch of spells together, so I think we can ignore this one too. And it's got the same problem as Baral Thunderclap Drake. And yeah, there's back to basics, so we're good here. Then here's all the Planeswalkers, then all the lands, and I think we're good on that front too. So, we're at 101 cards. I have to cut something. Lotus Petal can probably... Well, I had Energy Tap and Lotus Petal and whatnot in here when I thought the deck was going to be, like, all in on the Storm plan. But since that's not the case, we can get rid of Energy Tap and Lotus Petal. I think it is still worth getting Leer really fast. It's also potentially able to help us cheat out, like, Rings, Basalt, or Hullbreaker really quickly as well. And then that means I can put something back in. Let's put Dispel back in. Ledger Shredder was another card that I took out that maybe... You know what? Let's get rid of Dispel and add Ledger Shredder back into the deck. All right, I think that's good. So the main plan is assemble one of various infinite mana combos and then brain freeze all of our opponents to death. Now, some of these combos will result in Infinite Storm, specifically Hullbreaker plus Artifact Mana Loops and Isochron Scepter plus Dramatic Reversal. Others will not. So Power Artifact on Grim or Basalt Monolith, or Rings plus Basalt Monolith, or Naru Meha plus Ghostly Flicker. Those all result in infinite mana, but none of them result in an infinite storm count. However, presumably, you will be able to draw into more cards, hopefully. And that can potentially find you what you need. Then we also have some stacks, because we're mono blue, so we can afford to play all these cards. I want to make sure Curse Totem... So Curse Totem stops Spellskite. Is that the only thing it stops? Archmage, Gilded, Harbinger, Hullbreaker, Ledger, Naru, Spellseeker. Yeah, that's the only thing it stops. So we can just cut Spellskite and add Dispel back in. I think the value of having a Curse Totem affecting the whole table is higher than the value of a Spellskite protecting Leer. And again, we don't need to protect Leer. Leer is just a card that helps protect our other combos or helps us get spells back, but it's not necessary to actually get Leer into play. Then we've got Fabricate to get the artifact stuff, Merchant Scroll, which can go grab a blue instant, primarily Dramatic Reversal or Brain Freeze if we're missing that. Mystical Tutor, same thing, solve the equation, just the 3 mana version of Merchant Scroll essentially. Spellseeker also does the same thing. Transmute Artifact to go grab the artifacts, War of Invention, again, to go grab artifacts. And then some removal, mostly bounce spells to just get rid of stuff that's a problem for us, and then we're good after that. All right. That is... So it's not Blue High Tide anymore. It's... Flying... It's... Achieve, Infinite, Combo, then Brain Freeze. All right. So that is the Leer deck. Here is Leer in the chat. There's the link. And as my final parting piece of advice, PSA, call to action, whatever you want to call it. So a lot of people are obviously upset about this. Universes Beyond coming to 50% of all products. Universes Beyond coming to standard. The Magic IP is being completely diluted and forgotten. 6 standard sets per year, with a 3-year rotation, meaning you have to be actively purchasing 18 sets in total for an entire standard rotation, meaning the game is going to be more than twice as expensive as it currently is. Or if you don't want to consider the whole rotation, then at least a third more expensive than it already is, because we're going from 4 standard sets a year to 6. If you want to voice your displeasure about this, I don't think it'll help, but it's better than not doing anything. You can follow these URLs. So here are some URLs on the screen here. These will take you to the recent Magic the Gathering videos where they had their big Foundations panels where they announced all of this stuff. So I will post these links in the chat. Go to those videos and downvote them on YouTube. Maybe a high enough ratio may do something. I wouldn't hold my breath, but we can hope. Downvote Wotc to show your displeasure about the direction they are taking MTG. Foundations, preview, panel, and then there's this one. MTG Next Era. Because really, if you weren't here at the beginning of the show, or the beginning of the stream, forcing everybody to buy a third more product than they were before in order to stay competitive in standard is going to kill the game. It's going to kill tournament play. I still don't understand the fact that they introduced this new foundations that will last 5 years, thus making Standard a less rotating format while they keep releasing Modern Horizon stuff every 2 years. MTG Next already has more dislikes than likes. I don't know what... I don't have the extension that allows you to see the dislikes on YouTube, so I don't know what they're at. I would assume that they're getting downvoted, but whatever I can do to add to that downvoting, all we can do is vote with our wallets, which usually doesn't work, or show our displeasure online by spamming Reddit or downvoting videos. So I ask everybody who is inherently upset about this, show them that you dislike this, downvote those videos. It's like they are making Standard an eternal format while Modern is the new rotating format. Yeah, I mean, they're just making all sorts of decisions that are based on short-term profits only while completely ignoring the long-term sustainability and health of the game. And I firmly believe where I think that Modern Horizons is going to kill Modern, like it already did for me. I'm not playing Modern anymore. I never will again. Everybody who loved the, Modern deck guide videos that I made, those ain't coming back because Modern is dead to me. But clearly Modern is still somehow going strong. There's still enough people playing it. I believe adding a third more sets and then extending rotation by a year is going to kill the game. It's going to become increasingly less able for people to be able to afford to keep up with tournament magic. Voting with your wallet is limited since stores are forced more or less to buy every garbage set to get the sets people actually want. Yeah, and then there's just a bunch of people that either they disagree and they want to keep buying the game or they don't care, right? So, trying to manufacture a boycott I don't think works. Boycotts only work when they're grassroots, when they're from the ground up, when the company has pissed off enough people because of a terrible product or horrendous PR, right? But there's still enough people in the Magic community. There's still enough Magic players. Is it too harsh to call them simps? That are still buying this product. And it's like, hey, you know what? If you actually legitimately enjoy the game and you don't mind all the Universes Beyond IP bullshit and you still think that the play patterns are good and how expensive the game is not a problem for you, then okay, like from your perspective, the game is there is no issue. For me, I don't want to play Modern sets that rotate where you can have been collecting the game for 14 years and your collection is now worthless garbage and you have to spend literally hundreds of dollars per set in order to keep up with the tournaments. I don't want to have to buy a third more standard sets after they've already increased prices naturally on sealed product, and inflation is also making it harder to keep up. And collector boosters are bifurcating the prices so that we have mostly junk bulk rares and then a handful of extremely expensive cards. I'll say it again, as I said at the beginning of the stream, one of the biggest things holding me back from playing Standard right now is that I was not buying cards during Murders at Karlov Manor, which is where all the Surveil lands were printed. The Surveil lands, on average, they have different prices, but on average, if you even them all out, they cost about $10 a land. That's 4 copies per land. That's 10 lands. That's $400 just to have some of the mana in Standard, to play Standard. So it's like, even if I had a store to play Standard at, I can't even keep up with how expensive it is. Anyways, we'll be back with more at another time. Probably tomorrow, maybe not, I don't know. It'll probably be at the same time as usual, same days as usual. And we'll come back for more EDH. And of course, if anybody wants to request decks, wants to request a cube review, etc., we can do that. But for right now, I'm on the picking out random commanders and trying to build around them no matter how terrible they are. Them delaying Lorwyn to sell 2 Universes Beyond in a row is disgusting. Yeah. Already over, sad. Yeah, I'm just feeling pretty tired today. I feel like it's better to end here while I still relatively have some energy than to try to keep like plunging through more cards and more decks and get increasingly burnt out. So see you guys next time.